Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Fantasy. Pick up attributes like crazy. Chapter 61. Ji Gang said that the Grand Master would not come out of the mountain, which was bullshit in Xiao Jian's eyes. Why not come out of the mountain? That's because it didn't infringe on their interests. This time Shu Zhu got the Grand Master's inheritance, maybe Shaolin will invite the Grand Master. Xiao Jian didn't forget that Shu Zhu's biological father was the abbot of Shaolin Temple. That was a Grand Master level existence. So he must break through to the Grand Master level as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Xiao Jian pulled out his attribute panel. Name: Xiao Jian. Age: 17. Kung Fu. The first chapter of the Divine Elephant Prison Power 236 Giant Elephant Particles. Martial Arts. Perfect Vajra Palm. Small success of Wind God Leg. Small success of Cloud Slaying Palm. Small success of Star Shifting. Small success of Frost Fist. Small success of Heart Demon Attraction. Small success of 18 Dragon Subduing Palms. Small success of Wa Gong Dafa. Small success of 10,000 Poison Sutra. Small success of Mysterious Yin Claw. Small success of Arhat Fist. Small success of North Sea Divine Art. Small success of Prajna Palm. Small success of Great Stone Smashing Hand. Martial Arts Experience Value: 1140. Internal Force Value: 2580. The current internal force value is too far from breaking through the Grandmaster level. If you want to have a big breakthrough, you have to start a series of big battles. The struggle between the Sun and Moon Divine Sect and Shaolin Temple is not expected to last long, and Xiao Jian must take advantage of it before they end. Make another big one. Xiao Jian's eyes moved and turned away. When he appeared again, he had arrived at Dongcheng Prefecture of Daming. Dongcheng Prefecture is only 100 miles away from Blackwood Cliff. There are many gangs around, which are ostensibly subordinate to the Ming dynasty. They are vassals of the Sun and Moon sect in secret. The Tiger Gang is one of them. When Xiao Jian had not yet joined the Jinyue, it was this Tiger Gang that attacked the court's mines. This time, Xiao Jian's target is it. Xiao Jian, wearing the uniform of the Jinyue, came to the Jinyue station in Dongcheng City, Dongcheng Prefecture. Dongcheng City occupies an area of dozens of miles in radius, with hundreds of thousands of people living there. Usually, the order of the rivers and lakes is basically maintained by the Jinyue Qinhu station. So the Jinyue has quite a few people left in this city. 1 Qinhu, 10 Baihu, the establishment is full. Nearly 1,000 people of all sizes. Xiao Jian relied on his identity token and had a smooth journey. He came directly to the office hall of Qinhu Li Guang. Sir Xiao, I have heard of your name for a long time. I wonder what instructions you have for coming to Dongcheng Prefecture. Qinhu Li Guang looked at the unfamiliar Xiao Jian in front of him with a puzzled look on his face. He didn't receive any orders from the Jinyue. Why did a general suddenly come? And it was the recently famous Xiao Jian. Qinhu Li Guang stood aside with a respectful look on his face and gave up the main seat. He had to be respectful. Xiao Jian's reputation was earned by his strength. In addition, with his status as a general, it would only take a word to deal with him. Xiao Jian took out the token given by Ji Gang and said in a deep voice, Li Qinhu, immediately summon all the Jinyue that can be mobilized in Dongcheng City to listen to the order at the Jinyue. Be quick. Yes. After looking at the token, Li Guang did not dare to delay for a moment and immediately went down to summon people in person. He did not even dare to ask Xiao Jian what his purpose was. For a while, Dongcheng City was in chaos, causing a huge commotion. All the Jinyue received the order and ran to the Qinhu to gather as soon as possible. Not long after, the Jinyue was crowded with people. Looking around, there were probably no less than hundreds of people. Seeing that most people had come, Li Guang invited Xiao Jian out. Xiao Jian walked in front of everyone, and as soon as the master's momentum was released, everyone immediately fell silent. Everyone, the court learned that the Tiger Gang was causing trouble in Dongcheng Prefecture, and ordered me to come and destroy it. Today is the day when it will be destroyed. Xiao Jian's words made the Jinyue present stunned. Then there was an uproar. Massacre the clan. No way. The court actually asked us to massacre the Tiger Gang. No matter how you think about it, it's a little impossible. How can it be impossible? The Tiger Gang has done so many bad things. The court is probably intolerable. Killing them is the best. It's not that simple. If we really massacre them, won't the Sun Moon Church behind them take action? Is the court going to tear its face with all the factions in the martial arts world? Even Li Guang, a captain of the Jinyue, was shocked when he heard Xiao Jian's words. Although the Jinyue of their Dongcheng prefecture is no less than the members of the Tiger Gang. Even Zhang Tianshang, the leader of the Tiger Gang, is only as strong as him. But the Tiger Gang is backed by the giant Sun Moon Church. If the Jinyue takes action, what about the revenge of the Sun Moon Church? Looking at the crowd's endless noise, Xiao Jian roared, and the terrifying aura of the master was released, making everyone quiet down instantly. Be quiet, this is the order of the court, just obey it. Li Guang, take the people and set off. After that, Xiao Jian took the lead and rushed straight to the outside of Dongcheng City. The halfway up the mountain more than 30 miles outside Dongcheng City is the nest of the Tiger Gang. On the mountainside, various buildings are scattered in an orderly manner. Hidden in the woods, if you look from the outside, you can't see it at all without careful observation. There is only one mountain road from the bottom of the mountain to the top. The rest of the place is full of dense forest traps. Xiao Jian also asked Li Guang to know the specific information of the Tiger Gang. This old nest is full of members of the Tiger Gang, as many as hundreds of people. The leader Zhang Tianshang is already at the peak of the innate level. He has nearly 10 innate masters under him. The strength is almost the same as that of the Dongcheng Jinyue. If Xiao Jian did not need to borrow the name of the court to do this, he could kill all these people by himself. A group of nearly 1,000 people, led by Xiao Jian, quickly arrived at the Tiger Gang's nest. Zhang Tianshang was drinking with 2 young women he had robbed. Suddenly, a member of the gang ran in anxiously. It's bad for the leader, the Imperial Court Jinyue is here. Zhang Tianshang looked ugly. The Jinyue were just here to disturb his interest. Immediately he shouted angrily, it's just a Jinyue. Kill them as soon as they come. Why are you panicking? This gang member was about to cry. This is not a Jinyue, it's a group of them. They are everywhere in the mountains, and it's obvious that they are not good. Boss, go and take a look. It's the Jinyue army that's coming. They are almost at the gate of the mountain. Zhang Tianshang pushed the woman beside him away and said in surprise, Jinyue army. How is this possible? Didn't he know what kind of character the Jinyue of Dongcheng City is? How dare they come to the door? Let's go, gather people immediately, today I want to see what Li Guang wants to do. Zhang Tianshang walked towards the gate of the mountain angrily. When he led people to the gate of the mountain, the Jinyue had surrounded the entire Tiger Gang. He saw Li Guang's murderous figure. Before Li Guang could speak, Zhang Tianshang shouted, Li Guang, you are not in Dongcheng City, why did you come to my Tiger Gang? Aren't you afraid that you can't go back? The people of the Tiger Gang burst into laughter when they heard this. They looked like they didn't take the Jinyue seriously at all. Xiao Jian narrowed his eyes and looked at this scene coldly. Li Guang was furious. He was ridiculed by a group of people in the underworld in front of Xiao Jian, so where would he put his face? He immediately scolded, Zhang Tianshang, your Tiger Gang has done a lot of evil in recent years. If you surrender, you may still be able to save your life. Surrender, ha ha ha. Zhang Tianshang and his men burst into laughter. This is not the first time they have dealt with Li Guang. They have escaped unscathed every time. What's more, today is their home court. Zhang Tianshang sneered disdainfully. Li Guang, you are not awake yet, you dare to come to our Tiger Gang to cause trouble. Don't say you are just a Jinyue Qinhu, even if you are the king of heaven, I, Zhang Tianshang, don't take you seriously. They are vassals of the Sun and Moon sect. Although they are just vassals, not everyone can touch them. As long as they are touched, it will be a slap in the face of the Sun and Moon sect. As the top power in the Ming dynasty, the Sun and Moon sect has to give 3 points of face even to the court. A mere Jinyue Qinhu came to their territory, and they were killed. Xiao Jian frowned. A mere Tiger Gang is so arrogant. Even the Ming dynasty court doesn't take it seriously. And how many gangs are there in the entire Ming dynasty? If there are not 1,000, there are hundreds. You can imagine how chaotic the entire Ming dynasty is. They are all scum, there is no psychological pressure to kill them. Xiao Jian muttered to himself. With a flash of his body, Zhang Tianshang fell into Xiao Jian's hands. Zhang Tianshang, who was being strangled by the neck, could not even move. He looked at Xiao Jian with horror. Everyone present was equally horrified. Just a blur of his eyes, and the arrogant leader of the Tiger Gang was caught. Zhang Tianshang tried desperately to pry open Xiao Jian's hand. But even if he used all his strength, he could not shake it at all. Instead, he was pinched tighter. He was terrified and shouted hurriedly. "Let go, I am backed by the Sun and Moon sect. If you kill me, the leader of the Dongfang sect will not forgive you." Xiao Jian glanced at Zhang Tianshang with disdain. "Dongfang Bubai, just a little innate like you, Dongfang Bubai will come out to avenge you, do you think I believe it?" Xiao Jian's words pierced Zhang Tianshang's heart like a sharp sword. He panicked immediately. "I am the leader of the Tiger Gang under the Sun Moon sect. If you kill me, the Sun Moon sect will definitely help me get revenge. I'm waiting." Xiao Jian narrowed his eyes and pinched hard. He was not interested in listening to Zhang Tianshang's threats. A peak innate master died so easily in Xiao Jian's hands. Everyone was stunned. They looked at the bodies thrown out in disbelief. "What are you standing there for? Kill them all." Xiao Jian coldly ordered Li Guang, and Li Guang was awakened instantly. After a loud shout, the Jinyue rushed directly to the Tiger Gang. In an instant, the Tiger Gang was defeated. Screams rang in Xiao Jian's ears. Xiao Jian looked at this scene coldly. The strongest in the Tiger Gang is Zhang Tianshang. He is just a peak innate master. Except for him, the rest of the people are not a concern in front of many Jinyue. In addition, Xiao Jian stood there, releasing his master's momentum. The pressure on the Tiger Gang increased directly. He could not exert 70% of his strength. Facing the massacre of the Jinyue, he could only wait for death to come. Xiao Jian kept hearing the system prompt sound in his mind. It was so fast that even he could not react. When the battle was over, Xiao Jian exchanged all the garbage martial arts for experience points, and then looked at his attribute panel. Name: Xiao Jian. Age: 17. Skills: the first chapter of the Divine Elephant Prison Power, 236 Giant Elephant Particles. Martial Arts: Great Power Vajra Palm Perfection, Wind God Leg Minor Success, Cloud Dispelling Palm Minor Success, Dozhuan Xingyi Minor Success, Tian Shuang Quan Minor Success, Heart Demon Lead Minor Success, Dragon Subduing 18 Palms Minor Success, Wagong Dafa Minor Success, Wan Dujing Minor Success, Zan Yin Claw Minor Success, Arhat Fist Minor Success, Beiming Divine Art Minor Success, Prajna Palm Minor Success, Big Stone Smashing Hand Minor Success. Martial Arts Experience Value: 7,140. Internal Force: 5,580. Just one battle provided him with nearly 3,000 internal force and 6,000 experience points. It was unbelievable. But think about it. After all, it was a battle involving nearly 2,000 people. Although they are all acquired and innate warriors, they can add up to a small amount, and it is normal to have such a harvest. Does this make me a public enemy? Xiao Jian looked at the attribute panel and murmured. Since reaching the Grandmaster realm, more and more internal energy points are needed to upgrade. To advance to a Grandmaster level, you need 10,000 internal energy points. As for the Divine Elephant's Prison Suppressing Power, as you get to the back, if you want to make a big breakthrough, you need a huge amount of experience points. In the past, when a giant elephant particle was awakened, one could feel one's own improvement. But now, if we want to make a big improvement, we must awaken more particles at once. After the fight with Xuanan, Xiao Jian could clearly feel it. Even if he uses the Divine Elephant's Prison Suppressing Power, he can only suppress the half-step Grand Master at most. It is absolutely impossible to be the opponent of the Grand Master. Just as Xiao Jian was thinking, Li Guang came over. He said in a deep voice, "Sir, there are some special circumstances inside. You should go and take a look." Judging from Li Guang's solemn look, it seemed like something bad had happened. Xiao Jian nodded and followed Li Guang to the mountain gate of the Tiger Gang. After twists and turns, Li Guang led him to a dungeon. Xiao Jian just glanced at it, and his expression immediately became ugly. There were actually a dozen naked young women imprisoned in the dirty dungeon. When they saw Xiao Jian and others coming, they all huddled together in fear, looking at them with horrified expressions. You don't need to think about it to know what the Tiger Gang did to them. Xiao Jian clenched his fists and couldn't help but angrily scolded. If Zhang Tianshang hadn't been dead, Xiao Jian would have had to let him know what the top 10 tortures were. After suppressing the anger in his heart and letting Li Guang place these women in Jinyi guardhouse, Xiao Zhankai returned to Dongcheng City with everyone. Jin Yiwei's trip was so grand that no one in Dongcheng City knew about it. Soon, news spread that the Jinyi guards had wiped out the Tiger Gang. Shaolin Temple. After Xuanan came back, he immediately talked to the other brothers about the inheritance of the Grand Master. Xiao Jian blocked the road and Xu Zu was arrested, which made several Shaolin leaders furious. This Jin Yiwei Xiao Jian has gone too far. He is clearly an enemy of our Shaolin Temple. Not only are they enemies of the Shaolin Temple, they are also using the Sun and Moon God sect to check and balance us. They have no good intentions at all. The same goes for the people of the Sun and Moon God sect. They are willing to be used as spearmen by Xiao Jian. They are really stupid. When it comes to the inheritance of the Grand Master, the Sun and Moon God sect will not give it up willingly. It's a pity Xu Zu, we must bring him back as soon as possible. Xuanqi's closed eyes trembled slightly. After a long time, he opened his eyes. He sighed and said, this matter is related to the inheritance of the Great Master. Lao Na should go there personally. Several leaders were stunned, then looked at each other and nodded. The Sun Moon God sect will not let people go easily, and there is no use in sending others. We can't really let the Shaolin Temple and the Sun and Moon God sect fight. So the best way is to go there in person. The other side. Blackwood Cliff Underground Palace. Xiang Wenshan almost exhausted all methods, but in the end he still couldn't force Xu Zu to hand over the Grand Master's inheritance. When I ask, I don't know. Don't know anything. If pressed again, he would clasp his hands together and look like he was waiting to die. A group of people stayed up for more than 10 days without asking anything. All I know is that he was directly empowered by someone to achieve the level of a master. As for the portraits related to martial arts secrets, those things have been taken back to Shaolin by Zan Nan. So they get nothing. So many days of fussing in vain. Just when Xiang Wenshan's patience was almost exhausted, an overwhelming momentum descended on the Sun and Moon sect. The power of Wang Wang is pervasive. Even his cultivation at the peak of his master level felt frightened. Xiang Wenshan's expression in the underground palace changed and he rushed out immediately. At this time, people in the Sun Moon God sect ran outside the room one after another, looking at the figures above in horror. Above the sky, a figure stepped in the air, walking with the sunset on your back. From the ground, the sun in the sky seemed to be his foil. It hangs on the back of this person's head like a pendant. It makes people afraid to look directly. Xuanxi stepped down from high altitude step by step. Fall in front of everyone. When Xiang Wenshan saw Xuanqi's look, the corner of his mouth twitched. He hurriedly said, I didn't expect that I would alert the abbot. It's really rude. He also thought that before anyone from the Shaolin Temple arrived, he would first get the inheritance of the Great Master. Unexpectedly, Xu Zu remained silent and what he said was of no use. As a result, people from Shaolin Temple arrived, but it was Xuanxi, the Great Master. Xuanxi nodded and said softly, Excuse me, please ask the donor to bring my Shaolin disciples out. It was just a faint word, but Xiang Wenshan didn't dare not listen. He couldn't bear the anger of a great master. Not to mention that Dongfang Bubai is not at home. There is no one in the Sun Moon sect who can suppress Xuanxi, the great master. He could only obediently let Xu Zu be brought out. While waiting, Xuanxi said nothing, and Xiang Wenshan and others did not dare to say anything. After all, Xuanxi was so powerful now that he felt frightened even when he stood next to Xuanxi. When Xu Zu was brought out, Zanxi looked at Xu Zu and made sure there was nothing wrong, then he spoke. The Sun Moon sect has forced my Shaolin disciples to come here, so they must give an explanation. I have heard for a long time that the Dongfang sect leader of the Sun Moon sect is very powerful, and today I want to learn from him. Xiang Wenshan's mouth twitched. Dongfang Bubai had already gone away. If he was here, Zanxi would not have been releasing his aura to suppress them. Xiang Wenshan could only smile awkwardly. The leader is not here. If the master wants to learn from him, I am afraid it will only be next time. Not here, Zanxi frowned. Just now, he had been releasing his aura to investigate the masters of the Sun Moon sect. But I never noticed it. I thought it was hidden in a secret room, blocking his perception. I didn't expect it to be really gone. Since Dongfang's sect leader is not here, you will bear this palm, right? Zhan Si said lightly, and then raised his palm. He rushed straight to Wenshan. Shaolin Temple is a big sect in the world. If the disciples were forcibly abducted, it would be ridiculed without an explanation. Who would take Shaolin seriously in the future? So Zhan Si asked to compete with Dongfang Bubai. In order to save Shaolin's face. Dongfang Bubai is not here, so Shang Wenshan can only bear it. Shang Wenshan's hair stood on end when he heard Zhan Si's words. What does it mean? A great Grand Master was actually going to attack him. But before he could react, Zhan Si's palm had already fallen. Shang Wenshan looked up and felt that the world was turning upside down. It seemed that the whole world was suppressing him. The spiritual energy of the heaven and earth within a radius of dozens of miles of the Sun and Moon sect was instantly absorbed by Zhan Si's palm. The mighty power of heaven and earth frightened the people of the Sun and Moon sect present. They quickly retreated, and the Sun and Moon sect was in chaos. Others could retreat, but Shang Wenshan could not. Zhan Si's palm was aimed at him. In front of the Grand Master, he had no way to avoid it. In a hurry, Shang Wenshan's internal force turned rapidly, without any reservation. He blasted Zhan Si's palm with all his strength. Puff! Shang Wenshan couldn't even block it with all his strength, and the move he blasted out was easily crushed. And Zhan Si's palm didn't even stop. It came straight at Shang Wenshan. Boom! A palm fell, and a huge palm print suddenly appeared in front of the Sun Moon sect's main hall. The palm print was dozens of meters in size and several meters deep. There was a person lying in the middle. At this time, Shang Wenshan did not have the power of a master, but was slapped to the ground in a miserable state. The breath dropped rapidly, obviously he was under great pressure. Shang Wenshan looked up and saw that Zhan Si had disappeared. Alas, I miscalculated this time. Although Zhan Si's palm made him suffer a heavy responsibility, Shang Wenshan knew that Zhan Si had shown mercy. Otherwise, he would definitely not only be injured, but would be directly slapped to death. The gap between the Grand Master and the Grand Master is too big. Lord Zuoshi, are you okay? Seeing Zhan Si leave, the elder next to him dared to step forward and carefully helped Shang Wenshan up. Shang Wenshan shook his head and couldn't help spitting out blood. The elders around were angry. Shaolin Temple is bullying too much, the Grand Master has come out to show off his power. Why don't we wake up the Supreme Elder, kill Shaolin, and seek justice? With the elders taking the lead, the people around also shouted. Yes, do you really think that our Sun Moon sect is easy to bully? It's because the leader is not here. If the leader is here, the old monk Xuanxi would not dare to be so presumptuous. This revenge must be avenged, otherwise how can our Sun Moon sect survive in the world? Everyone angrily denounced Shaolin. Shang Wenshan's breath was weak, and he couldn't stop smiling bitterly when he heard it. Let's stop here, and let the leader deal with it when he comes back. They can certainly wake up the Supreme Elder who is in seclusion. But Shaolin is not a vegetarian, and no one knows how many masters are hidden. Going there rashly is just to humiliate yourself. In the final analysis, this matter is still too greedy. I thought I could get the Grand Master's inheritance before the people from Shaolin Temple arrived. What was the result? He was hit in vain and was given a heavy responsibility. He also lost the face of the Sun Moon sect. He got nothing. Thinking of this, Shang Wenshan couldn't help but get angry. All this was Xiao Jian's conspiracy. If it weren't for Xiao Jian, how could the Sun Moon sect suffer such a big loss? Just as he was thinking about how to get revenge on Xiao Jian, a disciple rushed over. Report, Shang Zuoshi, elders, the Tiger Gang was destroyed. As the voice fell, everyone looked at each other and didn't react for a while. Shang Wenshan looked up in astonishment. The Tiger Gang was destroyed. Which sect under the Sun Moon sect dared to move? For a while, except for their Sun Moon sect bullying others, when would it be the turn of others to bully them? Today, Zhan Si came to the door, which was already a great insult, and now someone dared to touch their people. And it was a massacre of the sect, which was incredible. Shang Wenshan felt a blockage in his chest and said with a dark face, "What are you talking about? How did the Tiger Gang get wiped out?" The disciple hurriedly said, "Jiniwei, it was Jiniwei who did it." All the Jinyue in Dongchang City were dispatched. The people of the Tiger Gang, except for those who were not at the mountain gate at that time, all the people were killed. When many elders heard this, they realized that it was the Jinyue of the imperial court who did it. The blood rushed up immediately. Jinyue actually dared to attack our Sun and Moon sect, they are really bold. Since they dare to do it, don't blame us for being rude, just slaughter them Dongchang City Jinyue. Yes, we must let the Jinyue know that we, the Sun Moon sect, are not easy to mess with. It seems that they think we are too kind. Kill, kill, kill. The Sun Moon sect shouted for killing. Xiong Wenshan's face was cold. Since he became the left envoy, he has never suffered such a big loss. Zhan Si came to kill again, and the Tiger Gang was slaughtered again. If he didn't retaliate, he would lose his position as the left envoy. Xiong Wenshan said with murderous intent. Fourth elder, fifth elder, select 100 good fighters and follow me. This time, I vow to flatten Dongchang City. Behind him, the two grandmasters immediately looked solemn and bowed their hands to receive the order. One grandmaster at the peak, plus 2 grandmasters, hundreds of good fighters. It's a piece of cake to destroy the Jinyue of Dongchang City. As long as there are no grandmasters in Dongchang City, there will be no accidents on this trip. On the side, the great elder Zhang Chengfeng looked at the trace of blood on the corner of Xiong Wenshan's mouth and said, Xiong, the left envoy, you are already injured. Why don't you let me go this time? Xiong Wenshan had just taken a palm from Zhan Si and was seriously injured. There might be some accidents if he went to Dongchang City again. Xiong Wenshan shook his head. There was a gleam of brilliance in his eyes. The Jinyue's action this time was definitely not ordinary. Usually, the Jinyue would turn a blind eye to the Sun Moon sect. They didn't dare to kill anyone easily. They were afraid of causing a conflict between the court and the Sun Moon sect. But this time, the Jinyue went out with great fanfare and slaughtered the entire Tiger Gang in one fell swoop. If there was no special reason, he would never believe it. He was worried if he didn't go in person. Although he was injured, he was at the peak of the Grandmaster after all. Unless the Grandmaster took action, no one could stop him. What he was worried about was other places in the Sun Moon sect. He immediately instructed, after I leave, you must be careful of someone attacking. If you really can't deal with it, then wake up the Supreme Elder. At this point, Xiong Wenshan's eyes flashed with murderous intent. The Supreme Elder was in seclusion to impact a higher realm, and generally he was not allowed to be disturbed. Even if Zhan Si attacked, he didn't think of waking up the Supreme Elder. However, when that time comes, he doesn't mind showing people that the Sun Moon sect is not easy to bully. Xiong Wenshan rushed to Dongchang City with more than 100 people. At this time, Xiao Jian had expected it and stayed in Dongchang. He wanted to see what the Sun Moon sect was capable of. The news of the destruction of the Tiger Gang spread throughout Dongchang City. The people of Dongchang, who suffered greatly, all ran to tell each other. The news spread quickly to all directions at an extremely alarming speed. Jinling, Jinyue Commander's mansion. Ji Gang sat in the room, flicking his fingers on the chair, listening to the Jinyue report below. Xiao Jian's every move in Dongchang, no matter how big or small, was all transmitted to Ji Gang's ears. Gradually, Ji Gang's mouth corners slightly raised. Xiao Jian's strength is even more powerful than he imagined. Of course, his courage is also extraordinary. In the martial arts world, there has not been such a large-scale massacre of a clan for many years. Normally, the worst that could happen is to kill 100 or so people, which would be a huge grudge in the martial arts world. But Xiao Jian went straight to the Sun Moon sect. That was a sect with a grandmaster. Who among the ordinary people in the martial arts world would dare to touch the tiger's whiskers? But Xiao Jian dared, and the ruthlessness of his attack shocked Ji Gang. Nearly 1,000 people were killed directly without any mercy. Xiao Jian, I hope you won't let me down. Ji Gang muttered to himself, with a sharp look in his eyes. Tianxiahui, Shangba sat high in the hall. Since the Qin Shuang brothers had nothing in Bili, Shangba asked the three of them to reflect on themselves for a while. It was at this time that the three of them missed the inheritance of the Grandmaster. But they didn't care. With Shangba around, he didn't care about the inheritance of the Grandmaster at all. If it's gone, it's gone. What really interested Xiongba was Jinyue Xiaojian. With his own strength, he suppressed his three most proud disciples so that they could not raise their heads. He made the Tianxiahui lose face. He also defeated Xuanan with the Grandmaster level and defeated Shaolin. Then he killed nearly 1,000 people from the Tiger Gang, which caused a huge storm in the martial arts world. At this time, the four masters and apprentices were sitting together to discuss Xiaojian. Xuanzhi, do you think Xiaojian can get through this time? Xiongba asked with interest. Xiaojian's slaughter of sects and extermination of factions this time is not an ordinary martial arts fight. If things go wrong, it may lead to a war between the court and the Sun and Moon sect. However, whether the fight can be won depends on whether the Sun and Moon sect will give it up. Moreover, Xiaojian is not so easy to deal with. The process of his battle with Xuanan has been widely spread. So it is difficult to take down Xiaojian without the Grandmaster. Qin Shuang frowned slightly. The strength of the Sun and Moon sect is needless to say, even the Tianxiahui is not much inferior to it. If the Sun-Moon sect wants to deal with someone, that person is probably not far from death. But the person they are dealing with is Xiaojian, then. Qin Shuang's face became serious. He shook his head, and said in a muffled voice, Master, in my opinion, Xiaojian will definitely be safe this time. On the side, Nifeng and Bu Jingyan also nodded. Xiaojian's strength has improved too fast. The three brothers have a deep understanding of this. Unless the Sun-Moon sect lets the Grandmaster take action, Xiaojian will have no problem getting through this level. Xiongba's face darkened slightly. Are these three disciples too confident in Xiaojian? They have become his little fans. If they face Xiaojian in the future, what's the use? Xiongba was unhappy, but he didn't say it directly. Instead, he said, since you think Xiaojian can turn danger into safety, then you can go to Dongcheng City to have a look. But remember, you are only here to watch, and you are absolutely not allowed to take action. According to Xiongba's wishes, the Sun-Moon God sect would definitely not let Xiaojian go easily. There will definitely be a war in Dongcheng City. Let them see how Xiaojian was defeated. At least it can dispel their blind faith in Xiaojian. The three brothers nodded when they heard this, then turned and left. Looking at the backs of the three of them, Xiongba showed a sneer on his lips. As long as the Sun-Moon God sect succeeds, then he can take advantage of the opportunity to swallow up Wushuang City. In this way, no matter how powerful the imperial court is, it will never be able to react. The trend of the world's whales swallowing up the world has been established, and no one can stop it. Embroidered Jade Valley, Yiwa Palace. Wawuk was standing quietly behind the two palace masters. After meeting Xiaojian, Wawuk's aura seemed to have completely disappeared. As long as Xiaojian appears, Wawuk becomes a foil. Whether it's going to Fuzhou for training or Bili's heart-stealing demon. Wawuk's appearance did not stir up any waves. Even now, he is still at his peak. The palace lord Yao Yu was very dissatisfied. I heard that Xiaojian, the royal guard, has now entered the Grandmaster realm and can now compete at the peak of Grandmaster. Liangxing's eyelids jumped when he heard the Grand Palace Master's words. It starts again. Every time she heard news about Xiaojian, Yao Yu would definitely catch Wawuk and teach her a lesson. But she couldn't help it, her sister's character was like this. Tell the truth. If she dares to speak for Wawuk, it will inevitably further intensify the situation. Master, that Xiaojian is indeed extraordinary, his strength is unfathomable. Wawuk said honestly. When he leaves from the north, Xiaojian will be able to fight against the Grandmaster with his peak innate cultivation. Yao Yu's face was gloomy. He slowly raised his head and looked into Wawuk's eyes, which made everyone present feel on tenterhooks. After a long time, Yao Yu finally said, You mean, we have taught you so hard for nearly 20 years, but you can't even beat a 17-year-old Jin Yue. That, before Yao Yu could say the words, What do I need you for? Lianxing quickly came to Wawuk's rescue. Sister, maybe people in the world are exaggerating. I heard that Xiaojian dared to massacre a gang under the Sun-Moon God sect this time. Why don't you let me take Ka to see it myself? Yao Yu looked cold and snorted coldly. Only then did he stop holding on to Wawuk. A strange look flashed in his eyes. If her cultivation hadn't been at a critical moment of breakthrough, she would have wanted to take a look. This incident is too sensitive. Jin Yue was the first large-scale massacre of the clan. If it is not handled well, it may be a big struggle between the Zhonghu and the court. They will inevitably be in a whirlpool when they move to the Flower Palace. Shenhe village also has a water pavilion. Looking from a distance, a young man with delicate features was standing under the waterfall. When the water passed over this person's head, it flowed away automatically as if it was guided by something. It looks amazing. Suddenly, the young man raised his legs and disappeared under the waterfall in just a moment. When I looked again, I had already reached the lake. Cousin, congratulations on your great success. Wang Yuyan shouted happily. A little starlight flashed in his eyes. She looks like a little fangirl. It's a pity that Marong Fu didn't see it. There was only hatred in his eyes. He murmured, "Yes, it's finally done, Xiao Jian, I must kill you." Marong Fu has been hiding in Shenhe village and practicing in Shishui Pavilion these days. If Wang Yuyan hadn't aroused his fighting spirit, let him cheer up, and he will really become the crazy Nan Marong. People in the world still don't know how to laugh at him. But it doesn't matter, now he has practiced Dozhuan Xingxi to the Dacheng state. Moreover, his own cultivation has also entered the master realm. He is confident and will not lose to anyone in the younger generation. As for Xiao Jian, Marong Fu's eyes flashed with a sharp edge. Recalling the insult he suffered when he was in Bili, murderous intent surged in his eyes. He must get this place back. Dongchang City. Xiao Jian, you are dead this time. Dongchang City. As time goes by, people from all walks of life arrive one after another. The entire Dongchang City fell into a strange atmosphere. At the beginning, when they heard that Xiao Jian had destroyed the Tiger Gang, the people were very excited. But as the Zhonghu forces arrived one after another, everyone fell silent. Everyone knows what the purpose of these people is. Even Qinhu Li Guang of Jinyue has been feeling a little uneasy these past few days. If these people were allowed to attack, the Jinyi guards in Dongchang City would definitely be doomed. Although Xiao Jian has been staying at Jinyi Guard Qinhu Station and has not gone out, he is well aware of everything outside. Just quietly waiting for the people from the Sun Moon God sect to arrive. In an inn outside Qinheshuo, Liangxing wore a white scarf on his face and sat opposite Wao Wuke at the entrance of the lobby. Looking at the three brothers Qin Shuang who entered the inn, a look of surprise flashed in their eyes. Are these the three hall masters of the Tianxiahui? It's really not simple. Liangxing murmured. With these three brothers around, it's not surprising that Wao Wuke's limelight is overshadowed. Wao Wuke pointed in the direction of the Jinyue and smiled bitterly. Second master, don't forget that there is a more powerful one ahead. No matter how strong the three brothers of Tianxiahui are, if he wants to catch up, he can still see a little hope. But the one in the Jinyue really made him feel powerless. Liangxing showed a trace of heartache on her face. She whispered, "Wuke, don't be too anxious. Among the younger generation, your strength is still quite good." After years of training by her and her sister, although Wao Wuke has not yet entered the Grandmaster realm, but his basic skills are very solid. It is only a matter of time to enter the Grandmaster realm. Wao Wuke shook his head. He said bitterly, "Second master, you don't know that there are 3 Grandmasters in the younger generation now, plus Bili Li Hanyi, and Chao Feng, a genius who has already entered the Grandmaster realm. Count carefully, there are no less than 2 palms of people who can beat me." The more Wao Wuke counted, the more uncomfortable he felt. Originally, he thought he was quite strong, but now it seems that he is far behind. Not to mention comparing with Xiao Jian, this pervert. There is absolutely no comparison. Just when he was depressed, he suddenly found Marong Fu, Wang Yuyan and the 4 great ministers, slowly walking towards the inn. Marong Fu at this time did not look decadent at all. His aura was extremely mysterious, and it was obvious that his strength had greatly improved. He had obviously entered the Grandmaster realm. How is this possible? Wao Wuke's chin almost hit the ground. Marong Fu, who was tortured to madness by Xiao Jian, was resurrected with full blood. And he also entered the Grandmaster realm. Qin Shuang and others in the inn had the same reaction as him. They all looked at Marong Fu's figure with surprise. A strange look flashed in their eyes. Marong Fu's mentality almost exploded from the eyes of the crowd. He took a deep breath and suppressed the anger that was about to explode. He entered the Grandmaster realm and returned to the arena. He had to find a stepping stone to show his prestige. Otherwise, in the eyes of the crowd, he would always be the Murong Fu who was tortured by Xiao Jian. He glanced at the inn and couldn't help but look at Wawuk, who was sitting at the door. He was at the peak of the innate realm, and his cultivation was neither high nor low, just right. Murong Fu shouted at Wawuk with a bad face, "Boy, what are you looking at?" Wawuk's face darkened. There were many people in the inn who looked at him, Murong Fu. They were treating him as a soft persimmon. Just as he was about to stand up, Lian Xing beside him pulled him back. With a casual wave of his hand, the tea on the table turned into a sharp arrow and rushed straight to Murong Fu's face. The terrifying whistling sound made the people in the inn jump. Grandmaster peak. The cultivation level exposed by Lian Xing when he raised his hand was actually the peak of the Grandmaster realm. Murong Fu's pupils suddenly shrank, and he shouted loudly, and the stars turned into a curtain. Wrap them tightly. Swish. The water arrow sank into Murong Fu's body and shot out from another direction. Unable to hurt him at all. Lian Xing's eyes lit up, and she said lightly, "Not bad, worthy of the name of Nan Murong." After that, she ignored Murong Fu and poured a cup of tea and continued to drink. Her attack was already considered bullying the weak. Since this move was resolved by Murong Fu, she would not attack again. Murong Fu looked at Lian Xing with a gloomy face, snorted coldly and turned away. Although it was only one move, Lian Xing's strength was definitely not something he could deal with. There was no point in fighting again. On the trip to Dongcheng, his target was Xiao Jian, and nothing else mattered. Seeing Murong Fu leave, the other people in the inn were not calm. Suddenly there was an uproar. It is rumored that Nan Murong was beaten crazy by Xiao Jian, but now it seems that this news is wrong. Murong Fu actually broke through the Grandmaster realm, and this time he must be here to seek revenge on Xiao Jian. Xiao Jian can fight on par with Shaolin Master Zan Nan. Can Murong Fu be Xiao Jian's opponent? There is no doubt that everyone is still on Xiao Jian's side. Murong Fu, who had just walked out of the inn, heard the voice coming from behind, and he felt bad. "Xiao Jian, wait for me." Looking at the direction of the Jinyue from a distance, Murong Fu's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Suddenly, a loud shout came from outside the gate of Dongcheng City. "Xiao Jian, come out and die." With deep internal strength, the mighty voice spread throughout the entire Dongcheng City. Carrying a terrifying murderous intent, it startled everyone in the city. At the Jinyue, Xiao Jian suddenly looked up. "Are you finally here?" Then the figure disappeared, and when it reappeared, it had already arrived at the city gate. People in the city also ran to the city gate to see the excitement. Suddenly, the gate of Dongcheng City was crowded with people. People from all the major sects in the Zhonghu showed up one after another, ready to witness this grand occasion. Xiao Jian stood high on the city wall and looked at the people of the Sun and Moon sect outside. They were murderous and ready to fight if they disagreed. "Isn't this Shang Zuoshi? Why are you so angry?" Xiao Jian touched his chin and looked at Shang Wenshan, whose breath was fluctuating. "What, did you get the inheritance of the Grand Master?" Shang Wenshan almost vomited blood when he heard this. Shang Wenshan almost vomited blood when he heard what Xiao Jian said. "This is a pot that is not open." For the Grand Master inheritance, he was slapped to the ground by Zanxi, and he still feels the pain in his chest. As the left envoy of the Sun and Moon sect, he has never suffered such a big loss. The most important thing is that he brought this loss upon himself. If he had not been greedy for the Grandmaster inheritance, how could Xiao Jian have plotted against him? Shang Wenshan looked sinister, and his eyes were full of murderous intent as he looked at Xiao Jian. He said angrily, "Xiao Jian, you don't have to talk about other things. You led the Jinyue of Dongcheng City to destroy the Tiger Gang, and you must give an explanation. It's just 1,000 households of Jinyue. If you piss off the Sun Moon sect, you can kill them." He didn't believe that the court would really go all out to fight the Sun Moon sect. The Sun Moon sect didn't want to go to war with the court, but did the court want to go to war with the Sun Moon sect? Besides, if the court launched a large-scale attack on the martial arts sects, other martial arts sects would definitely not stand idly by. At that time, it would be the court that would suffer. Xiao Jian looked at Shang Wenshan and suddenly chuckled. "It's just a tiger gang, why did you come here with such a big fanfare?" When Xiao Jian said this, not only Shang Wenshan was furious. Other people in the martial arts world were also furious. They all shouted, "What do you mean it's just a tiger gang? Even if you are Jinyue, you can't just slaughter people from the sect at will, right? Yes, if Jinyue acts like you, is there still law in the world? You must give an explanation for this matter, otherwise don't blame us for being rude. We are all people in the martial arts world, how can we watch the court attack them and remain indifferent? If they don't speak out today, what will happen if the court attacks their sect in the future?" So many people in the martial arts world share the same hatred and the same enemy. Murong Fu sneered at this scene. This was a good time to put Xiao Jian to death. So he stood up and said, "Xiao Jian, you must give everyone an explanation, otherwise even the court can't protect you." Xiao Jian looked at Murong Fu, who suddenly appeared in surprise. Curiously asked, "How are you? Were you crazy when you were in Bili?" Puff. When everyone heard Xiao Jian's answer, they couldn't help laughing for a while. Even those who didn't know about this secretly asked the people around them. Hearing the laughter of the crowd, Murong Fu's face was extremely gloomy. He gritted his teeth and said, "Xiao Jian, don't change the subject. Today, many martial arts friends are asking you for justice. If you don't want to die, then kneel down and beg for mercy immediately, so that everyone may let you live." Xiao Jian humiliated him in Bili, so Murong Fu couldn't wait to get revenge. He wanted to avenge his hatred. Many martial artists shouted, "Kneel down! Kneel down!" Under the urging of internal force, the waves of people's voices made the city walls tremble. Xiao Jian's face did not change, and he turned his head to look at the people around him. The three brothers Qin Shuang stayed quietly in place, looking like they were staying out of the matter. They were just watching the show this time, and they didn't plan to intervene. Even if their Tianxiahui was powerful, it was impossible for them to arouse public anger for Xiao Jian. Except for them, most people stared at Xiao Jian and shouted, wanting Xiao Jian to kneel down. If Xiao Jian really knelt down, in a sense, the people of Zhonghu overwhelmed the court. It was really satisfying. Xiao Jian sneered repeatedly, looking at the disdain on everyone's face. "You are just a bunch of rabble, and you dare to ask me to kneel down. You are not worthy. Come out and fight if you have the guts." Xiao Jian's words made everyone's heart choke, and they stopped shouting. His strength is well known, and no one dares to say that he can win. Then Xiao Jian turned his head and looked at Murong Fu. "Don't you want revenge? I'll give you a chance today." The pressure was immediately given to Murong Fu. Murong Fu's eyes flashed. He couldn't wait for this opportunity. Only by defeating Xiao Jian personally can he wash away the humiliation on his body. His Dozhuan Xingyi has been perfected, and he can be invincible no matter how bad it is. Seeing that Murong Fu didn't answer, Xiao Jian continued, "How about this, I'll give you a hand, that's it." Murong Fu's eyes were full of anger. Let him have one hand. What a big tone. No need. Today, I will let you know that I, Nan Murong, am definitely not just a name. After saying that, Murong Fu jumped off the city wall and came to the city gate. He looked at Xiao Jian with full fighting spirit. Xiao Jian smiled slightly, moved his feet, and instantly appeared in front of Murong Fu. He put his left hand behind his back and stretched out his right hand, making a gesture of invitation. Murong Fu was so angry that his face turned red. "You are looking for death." Murong Fu shouted and punched Xiao Jian's chest fiercely. The power was amazing, and the air around him was turbulent in an instant. Xiao Jian looked indifferent, and his right hand casually punched Murong Fu. Boom! A layer of air waves visible to the naked eye appeared between the two and retreated to the surroundings. Xiao Jian did not retreat a step, but Murong Fu retreated 3 steps in a row. Obviously, Murong Fu's strength was not Xiao Jian's opponent at all. That's it. It seems that even if you break through to the Grandmaster level, you are still a waste. Xiao Jian shook his head slightly, looking at Murong Fu with disdain. Listening to Xiao Jian's evaluation, Murong Fu's expression twisted. "I haven't used my strength yet. Come again." Murong Fu roared, punching Xiao Jian in the face. This time, there was a layer of starlight flowing on Murong Fu's fists. The power increased greatly. Xiao Jian was forced to retreat 3 steps. Looking at Xiao Jian retreating, Murong Fu's confidence increased greatly, and he laughed loudly. Xiao Jian, your doomsday is here. After saying that, he quickly attacked Xiao Jian again. For a moment, he seemed to have found his former self again. Return to the original high-spirited Nan Marong. Xiao Jian sneered. I thought Marong Fu relied on his master-level cultivation. It turned out that his Dozhuan Xingyi had already reached the great level. Xiao Jian's mind moved, and he immediately spent martial arts points to push Dozhuan Xingyi to the perfect level. In an instant, Xiao Jian seemed to be covered with a starry gauze. The starlight flowed, extremely magical. Xiao Jian simply put his hands behind his back. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Marong Fu, who rushed up with contempt. Marong Fu's fists fell hard on the starlight gauze in front of Xiao Jian. But it did not cause any ripples. All the internal forces were instantly dissolved. This is impossible. Marong Fu looked at the gauze on Xiao Jian with horror. That was clearly a phenomenon that only occurs when Dozhuan Xingyi is practiced to the highest level. Only when Dozhuan Xingyi is practiced to the perfect level can a star gauze covering the whole body be formed. Unless his strength is one level stronger than Xiao Jian, he can't break Xiao Jian's defense at all. This is also the reason why Xiao Jian is full of confidence, does not defend at all, and puts his hands behind his back. Xiao Jian said with a hint of playfulness, "This time I let you use both hands, you can do whatever you want." Xiao Jian's words pierced Marong Fu's heart like a sword. It made him breathless. He could only stare at Xiao Jian with red eyes, wishing to eat his flesh and drink his blood. Unfortunately, all this was just his impotent rage. After teasing Marong Fu, Xiao Jian looked at Shang Wenshan and the 100 good fighters behind him. A hint of coldness flashed in his eyes. In the final analysis, only after Shang Wenshan was dealt with, today's matter would be over. Others were just watching the fun, at most just waiting for an opportunity. Waiting for Xiao Jian to reveal a flaw so that he could show off his presence. Just like Marong Fu, Shang Wenshan also knew this truth. Watching Xiao Jian suppress Marong Fu, there was no fluctuation in his heart. He sneered, "Xiao Jian, you don't think that today's matter will be over after you beat Marong Fu, right?" Although Xiao Jian's strength is strong, it is not enough to scare Shang Wenshan. Not to mention the Sun and Moon Divine sect behind him. If all the foundations are really used, even the court will have a headache. Xiao Jian chuckled, waved his hand, and smiled faintly. "That's not the case, I was just teasing him for fun." This sentence made Marong Fu's chest hurt, and he almost vomited blood. In Xiao Jian's eyes, he, Nan Marong, was just a clown, just teasing. If he didn't have a trace of reason, he would definitely rush up and fight with Xiao Jian again. HMPH, Xiao Jian, I want to see how you get through this today. Marong Fu hated in his heart. Xiao Jian didn't look nervous at all, but asked Shang Wenshan. "Shang Zuoshi, I destroyed the Tiger Gang, why are you in such a hurry to do it, Sun Moon Sect? Is there any relationship between you?" Everyone knows what the relationship is. Who in the martial arts world doesn't know that the Tiger Gang obeys the orders of the Sun Moon Sect? Shang Wenshan raised his eyebrows. What does Xiao Jian mean by asking this? But there are so many people in the martial arts world present, so he doesn't deny it. I nodded immediately. The Tiger Gang is a gang under the Sun Moon Sect. Xiao Jian looked at Shang Wenshan with cold eyes, and a surge of anger inexplicably surged in his chest. "Since you asked me for an explanation, then I will give you one." Xiao Jian turned around and said to Li Guang, "Bring up the things you have collected these days." Li Guang heard this and waved to his Jinyue, and then a Jinyue carried a large box to Xiao Jian. Xiao Jian pointed to the box on the ground and said, "These are all the bad things that the Tiger Gang has done over the years. Massacre of civilians, robbing civilians of their property, and even bullying women. Every one of them is registered and can be checked." After speaking, Xiao Jian took a bundle of bamboo slips and threw it at Shang Wenshan. And then, he threw bundles of them to the people in the martial arts world present. As long as the cultivation level was slightly higher, they all received a bamboo slip thrown by Xiao Jian. Only Marong Fu had nothing in his hands. This made Marong Fu hate again. Xiao Jian looked down on him, and slapped him in the face. Soon, a box full of bamboo slips was distributed. Xiao Jian looked serious and said in a deep voice, "The Tiger Gang has committed many evils, and it is not a pity to die. But you, Shang Wenshan, you from the Sun and Moon sect actually have the nerve to come to me for accountability. I give you face. Shang Wenshan glanced at the bamboo slips in his hand, and his expression changed. It recorded some ugly things that the Tiger Gang had done, such as burning, killing and looting. Some of them he knew, and some he didn't know. Even he felt a little shocked when he suddenly saw these things. Not to mention the others. Oh my God, this Tiger Gang dares to act like this, how is it different from beasts? If I knew the Tiger Gang would act like this, I would have killed them all long ago. This is a gang under the Sun Moon sect, who would have thought that the Sun Moon sect would act like this? I'm afraid the Sun Moon sect doesn't know much about these things, right? Lian Xing looked at the bamboo slips in her hand, and the corners of her mouth slightly lifted. Muttered, this Xiao Jian is really not simple. From the beginning, Xiao Jian did not intend to confront the Sun Moon sect head-on. But from a moral point of view, he attacked the Sun Moon sect from a high position. In this way, if Shang Wenshan still insisted on seeking revenge on Xiao Jian, how would he be different from the people of the Tiger Gang? If the Sun Moon sect confronted the court for the Tiger Gang, other sects in the world can't be enemies with the court for some people who are worse than beasts, right? After all, no one wants to bring shame to their sect. The Sun Moon sect alone can't be a match for the court. But what if he doesn't seek revenge? Shang Wenshan has already acknowledged the relationship between the Tiger Gang and the Sun Moon sect. Although the Sun and Moon sect is not a righteous sect, but as one of the largest martial arts sects in the Ming dynasty, it has to maintain its reputation. This time, it was completely dragged into the water by the Tiger Gang. Shang Wenshan's face was gloomy and his eyes were extremely cold. If we had known earlier, we would have attacked together at the beginning and killed Xiao Jian once and for all. As a result, now, Xiao Jian has found an opportunity and has the upper hand. Xiao Jian listened to the discussions of the people in the martial arts world around him, and a smile flashed in his eyes. In their minds, killing someone is not a big deal at all. But this matter can be done but not said. If they say it out, it would be their fault. Murong Fu saw that Xiao Jian had signs of escaping, and his eyes rolled. He said, Xiao Jian, it is impossible that everyone in the Tiger Gang did these things. But you killed nearly 1,000 people, which is too much. Did you? Xiao Jian's expression became solemn, and he said in a sonorous and powerful voice. The leader of the Tiger Gang has committed many evil deeds. I took the Jinyue to arrest him, but he dared to lead the crowd to resist. This is a conspiracy to rebel, and the crime should be executed. All under heaven belongs to the king, and all the people are the king's subjects. Even if you are from the rivers and lakes, you must abide by the rules of the court. The voice was deafening, which shocked everyone and made them speechless for a while. You, Murong Fu pointed at Xiao Jian, and his fingers trembled with anger. It's a pity that Xiao Jian stood on justice, and no one could say anything. If they dared to speak for the people of the Tiger Gang, wouldn't it mean that they were not good people just like the people of the Tiger Gang? Afterwards, Xiao Jian pointed the spearhead at Shang Wenshan. Since I have given you the explanation you want, then your Sun Moon sect should also give me an explanation. The Tiger Gang is a gang under your Sun Moon sect, so are the things the Tiger Gang did all instructed by your Sun Moon sect. Now, everyone looked at Shang Wenshan with sympathy. This is not a good answer. If you say you don't know, then who will dare to follow the Sun Moon sect in the future? If you say you know, you can't get rid of this dirty water. For a moment, Shang Wenshan was in a dilemma. Shang Wenshan's chest rose and fell rapidly, and his fists clenched. He looked at Xiao Jian as if he wanted to eat him. Unexpectedly, in the end he was actually defeated by Xiao Jian. Shang Wenshan took a deep breath. Suddenly thought of Dongfang Bubai. If Dongfang's sect leader was here, how could he have such a verbal dispute with Xiao Jian? He would have just slapped him directly. But he was not the sect leader after all, and he did not have the earth-shaking cultivation of the sect leader. Shang Wenshan gritted his teeth and said, Master Xiao, this time it was my Sun Moon sect that did not discipline you strictly, and I am sorry for causing you trouble. Hiss. Everyone present gasped. I didn't expect Shang Wenshan to actually bow to Xiao Jian. He is the left envoy of the Sun Moon sect. He actually admitted his fault in front of so many people. Murong Fu's clenched hands trembled continuously, and his nails dug deep into his palms without knowing it. Could it be that even the Sun Moon sect, a behemoth, could not do anything to Xiao Jian? Then how could he take revenge? Xiao Jian looked at Xiang Wenshan deeply, and a trace of solemnity flashed in his eyes. If Xiang Wenshan pushed all this to the Tiger Gang, he would not be so afraid. Because Xiang Wenshan did this, the people of the Sun Moon sect were scattered. The threat is naturally smaller when people are not united. But I didn't expect Xiang Wenshan to be so decisive and admit his mistake on the spot. He didn't care about his face at all. Xiang Wenshan held the bamboo slips in his hand and continued, all the losses recorded here, including property, will be borne by the Sun Moon sect. In the future, my Sun Moon sect will arrange for people to deliver the compensation to the victims. What do you think, Lord Xiao? It's just some property, and the Sun Moon sect can afford it. And doing so will not damage the reputation of the Sun Moon sect. On the contrary, this is an excellent publicity for the Sun Moon sect. In the past, the righteous martial arts said that the Sun Moon sect was a demon sect. But have you ever seen a demon sect that can do this? Thinking of the key point, Xiang Wenshan was no longer angry. Instead, he smiled and looked at Xiao Jian with a calm face. Xiao Jian nodded. Since the Sun Moon sect is willing to compensate, let him pay. It's a pity that there was no opportunity to fight a big battle with the Sun Moon sect this time. I thought that after destroying the Tiger Gang, I could fight with the Sun Moon sect again. The internal force and experience points were flying away. Xiao Jian was naturally in a bad mood. He waved his hand casually and prepared to go back and think of a solution. Wait, seeing Xiao Jian was about to leave, Xiang Wenshan hurriedly called out. Xiao Jian looked back in confusion. Xiang Wenshan said in a deep voice, Master Xiao, the matter of the Tiger Gang has been resolved. Now it's time to resolve our personal grudges. Personal grudges? Xiao Jian looked confused. Is there any personal grudge between them? Seeing Xiao Jian's puzzled look, Xiang Wenshan sneered, Master Xiao is really a noble man who forgets things easily. A few days ago, you deliberately stopped Zan Nan and made Shaolin and my Sun Moon sect grudge each other. The abbot of Shaolin Temple, Master Xuanxi personally went to the Blackwood Cliff and severely injured me with one palm. How do you explain this? Xiao Jian was stunned and said, Explain. Do I need to explain? You are the one who wants the Grand Master inheritance. What does it have to do with me? If Xiang Wenshan didn't want it, he could have just not captured Xu Zhu. It wasn't Xiao Jian who asked him to capture him. So when it comes to this, he feels that Xiang Wenshan still owes him a favor. Xiang Wenshan sneered, You made me suffer a palm from Master Xuanxi. Today, you and I must decide who is better. After that, Xiang Wenshan didn't wait for Xiao Jian to explain, and shouted to the left and right, Everyone come together. Xiao Jian was stunned. This guy is getting more and more cunning. He didn't leave him any room to speak. He was completely prepared to use force. Xiang Wenshan was also afraid of Xiao Jian's mouth. If Xiao Jian continued to talk, who knew how he would argue? It's just a personal grudge, so let's do whatever we want. Seeing more than 100 people from the Sun Moon sect rushing towards Xiao Jian, Marong Fu's eyes lit up, and he said loudly, Xiao Jian and I have a deep hatred, let's end it together today. After that, Marong Fu also rushed over. He looked like he was going to kill Xiao Jian with his palm. Xiao Jian turned around and snorted. You are like this, I will dirty my hands if I hit you, get out. After that, he directly used Dozhuan Xingyi. Star gauze flows all over the body. Marong Fu was completely unprepared for the rushing towards him. Marong Fu's attack fell on Xiao Jian without any reaction. But Xiao Jian slapped Marong Fu hard on the face and sent him flying away. The person was in midair and spat out a mouthful of blood. When Marong Fu stood up, his face had become swollen like a pig's head. I'm afraid my mother won't even recognize him when he comes. The people around were shocked when they saw Marong Fu's appearance. He gasped on the spot. Hiss, Xiao Jian is so cruel. Dignified Nan Marong can't even make a single move in Xiao Jian's hands. Xiao Jian's strength is completely superior to that of the younger generation. I don't know if Xiao Jian can still defeat the people of the Sun Moon God sect. Everyone was talking about it, completely ignoring Marong Fu who was covering his face and looking shameless. Xiang Wenshan shook his eyebrows. Xiao Jian's strength is really not an exaggeration. Even though he was at the pinnacle of the Grandmaster level, he still couldn't ignore Murong Fu's full blow. Then he slapped him away with his backhand. I don't believe it. No matter how strong you are, how can you compete with so many people from our Sun and Moon God sect? Xiang Wenshan took the lead and punched Xiao Jian hard. The terrifying power caused Dongchang City to suddenly change. There was a huge cloud of dust at the city gate. Ha 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 ha, good time. Xiao Jian didn't feel timid at all, but burst into laughter. The powerful Vajra palm greeted him. Boom. When the fists and palms collided, even the air was distorted, causing a shock wave. Then it pushed in all directions. Before Xiao Jian could take a breath, the other two Grandmasters of the Sun Moon God sect also rushed forward. He looked like he was putting Xiao Jian to death. It's a pity that both of them are the 8th level of Grandmaster. Although he is strong, he is still a bit weak in front of Xiao Jian. The two people's moves hit Xiao Jian, only causing waves on Xingqian Shui. Xiao Jian was not hurt at all. This is impossible. Xiang Wenshan screamed in surprise as he was knocked backwards by Xiao Jian's palm. Xiao Jian could actually resist the Grandmaster's attack at the 8th level with his own defense, then. The stunned Xiang Wenshan was stunned for a moment. Xiao Jian was not stunned. He rushed straight towards Wenshan. The powerful Vajra palm struck Xiang Wenshan directly on the chest. Puff! Xiang Wenshan was slapped out by Xiao Jian. The attacks from other members of the Sun Moon God sect pose no threat to Xiao Jian at all. He took it directly with Xingqian Shui. It's my turn now. Xiao Jian looked at Xiang Wenshan with a dangerous curve on his lips. Protect Master Zuo. The expressions of the two Grandmasters of the Sun Moon God sect changed and they shouted loudly. At the same time, he started to attack with all his strength, hoping to break Xiao Jian's defense. Unfortunately, it only delayed Xiao Jian's speed a little. There is no way to shake Xiao Jian at all. Xiang Wenshan's face was full of grievance, and he raised his head to the sky and shouted, "Retreat!" Xiang Wenshan's unwilling roar resounded throughout Dongchang City. The crowd of people watching on the top of the city exploded instantly. What happened? Xiang Wenshan actually called for withdrawal. It seems that the people of the Sun Moon God sect are no match for Xiao Jian. Isn't it possible? Xiang Wenshan is at the pinnacle of a Grandmaster. With 2 Grandmasters and hundreds of masters, he can't defeat Xiao Jian. The Sun and Moon God sect has hit the wall this time. How strong is Xiao Jian? Everyone was shocked. Looking at the battlefield at the city gate, I didn't even blink, for fear of missing some wonderful moment. Xiang Wenshan tried hard to escape from Xiao Jian, but Xiao Jian chased him and beat him fiercely. He only had Xiang Wenshan as his opponent in his eyes. After finally fighting, how could Xiao Jian miss this opportunity? If you don't pick up some martial arts fragments now, you don't know when the next time will be. So for Xiao Jian, of course, he can fight as long as he can. At the same time, the system prompts in Xiao Jian's mind kept ringing. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the fragments of Bai Luozan and automatically comprehending Bai Luozan. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the Bai Fan/fragment, the martial arts experience value will be +100. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the fragments of the Heavenly Demon Fist and automatically comprehending the Heavenly Demon Fist. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the fragments of the Demon Fist. The martial arts experience value will be +100. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the internal energy fragments, the internal energy value is +150. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the internal force fragments, the internal force value +15. Because Xiang Wenshan brought masters from the Sun and Moon sect, plus their 3 masters. Therefore, Xiao Jian's gains were huge. The beep in my head never stopped. Xiang Wenshan's molars were almost broken. If he hadn't been seriously injured by Xuanqi's slap, how could Xiao Jian be oppressed like this when he couldn't even use 80% of his own strength? But in the eyes of outsiders, Xiang Wenshan was no match for Xiao Jian. Even if he has 2 grandmasters and hundreds of innates to help him. He was also chased and beaten by Xiao Jian. Xiang Wenshan, who grew more and more angry the more he thought about it, finally got angry. Regardless of the serious injuries on his body's internal energy surged, and his momentum suddenly burst out. With his peak Grandmaster cultivation, he forcibly mobilized the power of heaven and earth. Boom! In an instant, the world was distorted. A bright ball of light flashed in his palm, making everyone present unable to open their eyes. Go to hell! Xiang Wenshan roared angrily and threw the ball of light in his palm towards Xiao Jian. This was the full force of his prime. Carrying the power of heaven and earth, ordinary masters at the peak would not dare to take it head-on. Xiao Jian's heart was ringing with alarm bells. His intuition told him that Xingqian Shei could not withstand such an attack. He immediately turned around, pulled the 2 grandmasters of the Sun Moon sect and threw them at Xiang Wenshan. Xiang Wenshan was so angry that Xiao Jian's tricks made him itchy. But we cannot ignore the 2 masters of the Sun and Moon God sect. After all, even if the 2 of them worked together, they would never be able to catch this move. Xiang Wenshan was so angry that Xiao Jian cursed. Throw the big move in your hand into the sky. Boom! In an instant, the ground shook. The walls of Dongchang City shook 3 times. The members of the Sun and Moon God sect on the battlefield spat out mouthfuls of blood. Apparently his internal organs were injured by this move. Xiao Jian smacked his lips as he retreated. Watching the mushroom cloud rising in the sky, I felt scared for a while. What if it hits him? The best outcome would be a serious injury. However, after Xiang Wenshan threw this move, his whole aura began to drop rapidly. Looking depressed, Xiao Jian's eyes lit up and he pressed on again. It seemed that he wanted to take advantage of his illness and take his life. Take Master Zuo away quickly. A Grandmaster of the Sun Moon God sect roared and rushed toward Xiao Jian desperately. The rest of the Shantian realms were no exception, rushing towards Xiao Jian desperately. Wanting to use this to stop Xiao Jian's pace. The other Grandmaster did not dare to delay, picked up Xiang Wenshan, and disappeared from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. Xiao Jian stood there, turning a blind eye to everyone's attacks, looking at Xiang Wenshan's back with an incomprehensible expression. In the end, I gave up the idea of chasing him and killing him. After all, he is the left envoy of the Sun and Moon God sect. If he kills him, the Sun and Moon God sect will definitely go crazy. Maybe the Grand Master will come after him. You can't always put your hopes on the court. Forget it, there will always be opportunities in the future. Xiao Jian murmured to himself, with a trace of regret in his eyes. I hope that when Xiang Wenshan recovers from his injury, it will bring him new gains. As for the person in front of me, Xiao Jian's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Since they dare to come to him for trouble, how can they be allowed to escape unscathed? When the people of the Sun Moon God sect provided him with considerable internal strength and experience points, Xiao Jian started the counter-killing mode. Suddenly, corpses lay everywhere at the city gate. But in the blink of an eye, all the people from the Sun Moon God sect, except Xiang Wenshan and a Grandmaster, were left behind by Xiao Jian. Everyone on the city wall was shocked by Xiao Jian's ruthlessness. How cruel! Xiao Jian is in a head-to-head confrontation with the Sun Moon God sect. The Sun and Moon God sect won't just let it go, it's such a huge beast. Xiao Jian is not a vegetarian, and I don't know if this is a sign from the court. They all come from Zhonghu sects. I am still quite afraid of the imperial court. Although I usually talk about court eagle dogs, I look down upon them. But everyone knows that once the court is serious, it is absolutely impossible for them to compete with the imperial court on their own. Even the 3 top forces are the same. Xiao Jian turned his head and glanced at the members of the Sun Moon God sect who were lying at the gate of the city, and murmured, "Don't blame me for being too cruel. I blame you for doing too many evil things. The Sun Moon God sect has never been a good thing. The teaching staff is a mixed bag. He usually kills a lot of people. It's just that today it's their turn to be unlucky." Xiao Jian thought and immediately opened his attribute panel. Name: Xiao Jian. Age: 17. Kung Fu. Divine Elephant Prison Suppressing Strength Chapter 1 236 Giant Elephant Particles. Martial Arts. Perfect Vajra Palm, minor success in Function Legs. Minor success in Dispelling Cloud Palm, minor success in Star Shifting, Tianshuang Fist, minor success in Luring Inner Demons, minor success in the 18 Dragon Subduing Palms, minor success in Transforming Power, 10,000 Poison Sutra. A small success in Xuanian Claw, a small success in Luohan Fist, a small success in Beiming Shenkung, a small success in Prajna Palm, a small success in Big Smashing Monument Hand, a small success in Beluo Slash, a small success in Heavenly Demon Fist. Martial Arts Experience Value, 9,940. Internal Force Value, 10,580. Just one battle provided him with thousands of internal strength points and martial arts experience points. If he hadn't upgraded Dozhuan Xingxi to perfection, he would have even more martial arts experience points. But it's not a loss. The passage of time has increased his defense power to an astonishing level. As long as he is not attacked with all his strength by masters above the peak of Grandmaster. Basically no need for your own security. Xiaojian raised the corners of his mouth slightly, looked up at the people on the city wall, and then returned to Dongcheng City. After Xiaojian left, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. They dispersed one after another. After this battle, various factions in the world no longer simply regard Xiaojian as a younger generation. After all, a young man who could force Shang Wenshan to flee was an extremely powerful being in any sect. Lian Xing watched Xiaojian leave, and finally understood why Wawuk had no confidence to compete with Xiaojian. Based on the strength Xiaojian showed, she might not be Xiaojian's opponent, let alone Wawuk. In her opinion, Xiaojian's strength was almost invincible under the Grandmaster. Unless the Grandmaster took action, no one could do anything to him. The three Qin Shuang brothers smiled bitterly at each other. Xiaojian was so far ahead that they had no hope of surpassing him. Although the three of them had all entered the Grandmaster realm. However, for so long, the three of them were still at the first level of the Grandmaster. They had not even touched the edge of the second level of the Grandmaster. Moreover, after entering the Grandmaster realm, they realized how difficult it was to take another step forward. From the first level of the Grandmaster to the peak of the Grandmaster, Xiaojian was able to defeat so many levels. It was simply abnormal. Brother, let's go back and report. Ni Feng shook his head and glanced at the direction of the city, with a trace of helplessness on his face. Xiaojian was like a mountain on the top of their heads, making them feel suffocated. They could not muster the confidence to surpass him. The people in the martial arts world dispersed one by one. The information of this battle spread everywhere. Only Murong Fu stood there blankly. Looking at the corpses of the Sun and Moon sect, his eyes were dull. Like a walking corpse, he has become a Grandmaster, but in front of Xiaojian, he is not even qualified to fight. What makes him even more desperate is that the Dozhuan Xingyi of the Murong family actually shines in Xiaojian's hands. It's ironic. For so many years, except for the ancestor who created Dozhuan Xingyi, no one in the Murong family has been able to practice it to perfection. He also thinks that he is a rare genius in the Murong family in 100 years. He can practice Dozhuan Xingyi to the great success realm at this age. But now, what a joke, he is a joke. Tianxiahui. Shangba has secretly arranged a group of gang members to prepare for the occupation of Wushuang City. Now he is waiting for the news from Dongcheng City. As long as the Sun and Moon sect attacks the Dongcheng Jinyue and starts a war with the court there. That is a great opportunity for the Tianxiahui to come down from the mountain. So, he has been sitting on the first floor, just waiting for the news from Dongcheng City to come back. But the news has not come back yet, but the three brothers Qin Shuang have come. The three of them hurried along the way, much faster than the spies of the Tianxiahui. Looking at the three brothers in front of him, Shangba smiled. He asked, "What's going on? Did the Sun-Moon sect take action?" Qin Shuang nodded. "Master, the Sun-Moon sect's left envoy Shang Wenshan led the crowd and went straight to Dongcheng City to ask for an explanation." Ha ha ha, Shangba laughed loudly. He stood up suddenly, with his hands in a hug. The Sun-Moon sect did a good job. The world should change its master. Shangba was in high spirits at this time. He had waited for this opportunity for many years, and today he finally got it. The three brothers were stunned when they heard Shangba's words. Well done, they were beaten like that, and they still did a good job. Qin Shuang suddenly realized that Shangba must have misunderstood. He hurriedly said, "Master, the people of the Sun-Moon sect were beaten back, and Dongcheng City was unscathed." Shangba almost couldn't catch his breath, and looked at Qin Shuang and the other two in surprise. "What do you mean? The Sun-Moon sect was defeated?" One of the three top forces of the Ming dynasty, the Jinyue who attacked Dongcheng City, was defeated. Xiangba couldn't believe it was true. Qin Shuang nodded. The Sun Moon sect was not only defeated, but also defeated. Except for the left envoy Shang Wenshan and a master who escaped, everyone else died in Dongcheng City. Xiangba frowned when he heard it. A mere Dongcheng City could never be the opponent of the Sun Moon sect. Unless, Xiangba's face was solemn, and he said in a deep voice, "Did the Ming dynasty take action? Who came this time? Want to save Dongcheng City from the hands of the Sun Moon sect? Unless they dispatched masters of the Grand Master level. And they probably knew something about the masters of the Ming dynasty court." Qin Shuang smiled bitterly. He sighed and said, "Master, the court did not send anyone this time. It was only Xiao Jian who blocked the attack of hundreds of people from the Sun Moon sect." What? Shang Ba was shocked. According to his guess, in order to force back the revenge of the Sun Moon sect, the court must send out a Grand Master. But now, Qin Shuang told him that it was Xiao Jian alone who made the Sun Moon sect return in defeat. What happened? Tell me in detail. Shang Ba sat back on the throne and asked carefully. Qin Shuang then slowly told everything that happened in Dongcheng City. The more Shang Ba listened, the more solemn his face became. When Qin Shuang finished speaking, Shang Ba slowly closed his eyes. His chest rose and fell violently. I didn't expect that all his calculations would be aborted because of a 17-year-old Jinyue. Qin Shuang and the other two sat obediently in the hall. Having followed Shang Ba for so long, they naturally knew that the more silent Shang Ba was, the angrier he was in his heart. The air in the hall seemed to freeze. You could even hear a needle drop on the ground. After a long time, Shang Ba opened his eyes. At this time, his eyes were filled with faint bloodshot. Like an angry lion, Shang Ba said word by word, "Xuanzhi, the three of you put down everything you are doing and go find the clay Buddha for me. You must find the clay Buddha for me." At the end, Shangba's voice echoed in the hall. A faint murderous intent filled the hall. The three people's faces became solemn, and they quickly bowed their hands and said yes. After the three people withdrew, Shangba murmured, "Clay Buddha, you dare to lie to me. 10 years ago, even the clay Buddha said that he would transform into a dragon when encountering wind and clouds. But now, none of that." The two of them, Fengyan and Xiao, were completely unable to stand on the stage in front of Xiao Jian. How could he turn into a dragon when encountering a storm? Shang Ba's eyes showed murderous intent and he slapped the desk in front of him. Boom! The desk shattered in response. He was directly slapped into powder by Shang Ba. Leave no trace. Xiao Jian stayed in Dongcheng City for a few days before he was urgently summoned back by an order from Jinling. Then he rushed to Jinling. Following Ji Gang's instructions, Xiao Jian went directly to the south gate and entered the palace. The red city wall is majestic and solemn. Every 3 or 5 steps, there is someone on duty. The Jinyi guards at the south gate are all innate realm. Seeing Xiao Jian, a Jinyue immediately stepped forward to lead the way. Because Ji Gang had ordered Xiao Jian to be taken directly to the main hall of Jinyue in the palace. Going around all the way, Xiao Jian always felt like someone was spying on him secretly. And his cultivation is profound and unpredictable. He didn't even know where the person in the dark was. It seems that there are many masters in the palace. Xiao Jian thought to himself. The imperial palace was the center of the Ming dynasty. The defense force is naturally the strongest in the entire Ming dynasty. There might even be land gods. Thinking of this, Xiao Jian's heart trembled. The imperial court is definitely stronger than the sects in the world. It is not surprising that there are land gods. He should be more careful when acting in Jinling from now on. Thinking of the red figure deep in his memory, Xiao Jian couldn't help but admire him. At that time, Dongfang Bubai fought his way from the imperial city to Jinling. Without absolute strength, she would not be able to escape unscathed. It also turned Jinling upside down. Dongfang Invincible's strength is at least a Grand Master, and he is the ultimate master within the realm of a Grand Master. The thoughts in Xiao Jian's mind turned quickly, and he soon followed the Jinyue in front of him to a palace. The Jinyue stretched out his hand to signal Xiao Jian to enter the palace, then turned and left. Xiao Jian was left standing outside the palace, looking at the locked door in front of him. Come in. Ji Gang's voice came and Xiao Jian breathed a sigh of relief. Lift your legs and step into the palace. In the palace, Ji Gang looked at Xiao Jian who came in with a smile. Sitting next to him were 4 guards dressed in bullfighting uniforms. In Xiao Jian's perception, the 4 people's cultivation levels are all at the master level, and 2 of them have vague auras. It seems as if it will merge with the surrounding world at any time. Obviously the pinnacle of Grand Master. Like Shang Wenshan, there is only one opportunity left to step into the ranks of the Great Master. Xiao Jian's eyelids twitched. Although I knew that there were definitely many experts in Jinyue, I never expected that besides the Great Master Ji Gang, there would be such a strong person. And they fell in love at first sight. I've seen the commander. Xiao Jian gathered his thoughts and walked up to Ji Gang and bowed his hands. Then he bowed his hands to the 4 of them. After all, the person who can sit here is definitely not a small character. The 4 of them looked at Xiao Jian, a young man who was in the spotlight with great interest. 3 people nodded towards him with good intentions, only one old man. His face was sinister, and a gleam flashed in his eyes when he looked at Xiao Jian. Turning a blind eye to the kindness released by Xiao Jian, he just snorted lightly. He turned his head and said nothing. Xiao Jian's heart sank. This guy is one of the 2 peak masters. I don't know what made him dissatisfied. Better not mess with me. Xiao Jian murmured to himself. As long as this old man does not step into the Grand Master, nothing can be done to him. At least there is no problem with self-protection. It's not impossible for him to kill this old guy if he really uses all his strength. When Ji Gang saw this scene, the corners of his mouth raised slightly. He pointed at the 4 people sitting next to him and introduced, "These 4 are the 4 great colleagues of our Jinyue, Qinglong, Baihu, Suzaku, and Xuanwu. Qinglong and Baihu are masters at the pinnacle of masters. You can communicate more in the future." Judging from the Dongchang City incident, Xiao Jian's strength is also at the peak of a Grand Master. That's why Ji Gang said that Xiao Jian and Qinglong Baihu should communicate more. As for Suzaku and Xuanwu, their strength is still quite different. It's just the appearance of a Grand Master at the 7th or 8th level. Xiao Jian bowed to the 4 of them again. I have met 4 Tongji adults. Several people also bowed their hands politely. However, the old man who looked unkind to Xiao Jian just now, Baihu, was very perfunctory. He raised his hand casually and put it down. Xiao Jian didn't care, but was a little confused as to why Baihu had a problem with him. He has never offended Baihu. Ji Gang saw all this in his eyes, and a smile flashed in his eyes. He said, "Xiao Jian, you did a very good job in Dongcheng this time. It caused the Sun Moon God sect to suffer a huge loss and greatly increased the power of the imperial court. Even the Holy Emperor favors you very much." Speaking of this, the smile on Ji Gang's face was also very obvious. Xiao Jian's incident gave him a lot of face with the emperor. Before that, the Jin Yue he led were the targets of criticism. The world in Ming Dynasty is not peaceful, but Jin Yue has never made any great achievements in this regard. The sudden rise of Xiao Jian caused the Sun Moon God sect to suffer a big loss. Not only did they destroy the Tiger Gang, but they also severely injured Shang Wenshan and forced him to flee. It made the various sects in the world restrain themselves a lot. Xiao Jian said humbly, "It's all adults who have good leadership." It was also thanks to the token given to him by Ji Gang that he was able to mobilize the Jin Yue in Dongcheng City. Otherwise, if he were to fight against the Tiger Gang alone, he would be at a nominal disadvantage. Only by raising the banner of the imperial court can the Sun and Moon sect be feared. Ji Gang waved his hand and said, "No one can erase your contribution." After saying that, he glanced at Baihu from the corner of his eye. He said with profound meaning, "Jinyue has always been rewarded for merit and punished for demerit. I have recorded the credit for this time. I will give you a surprise when you make a contribution next time." Xiao Jian's eyes lit up and he immediately raised his hands and said, "Thank you, sir. I gave him a gold medal last time. I wonder what I will give him next time." Ji Gang was very generous with his actions. Just when Xiao Jian was guessing what Ji Gang would give him, Ji Gang said with a serious expression, "The Sun and Moon God sect can't make any waves for a while, but it's different with the Tianxiahui. According to reliable information, when you fought against the people of the Sun Moon God sect in Dongcheng City, the world was not stable. He is prepared to swallow up Wushuang City. His ambition to be a dominator is known to everyone in the world. Speaking of this, Ji Gang couldn't help but frown. Tianxiahui is different from the Sun and Moon God sect. If the Sun Moon God sect is a mixed bag of good and bad, then the world will be like a monolith. Up and down are completely under the control of Shangba. As long as Shangba speaks, the whole world will become one. An extremely terrifying force erupted. Baihu, you and Xiao Jian will handle this matter together. Ji Gang suddenly dropped this sentence. Both Baihu and Xiao Jian were stunned. Especially White Tiger. He secretly hated Xiao Jian. Because Xiao Jian ruined a good thing for him. He has a nephew who is extremely talented. In the world of martial arts, he is considered a genius. Before Xiao Jian appeared, Baihu had high hopes for his nephew. He even risked his old face to recommend him in front of Ji Gang. I want him to travel around the world on behalf of Jin Yiwei and purge the sects in the world. But as soon as Xiao Jian appeared, his nephew instantly lost all his aura. The position of Dutong that was supposed to be obtained was also given to Xiao Jian by Ji Gang. And his nephew is still guarding the gate of the palace. Thinking of this, Baihu couldn't contain his inner anger. However, thinking about having to deal with Tianxiahui together with Xiao Jian in the future, Baihu's thoughts started to change rapidly. The killing intent in his heart almost overflowed. Xiao Jian also sensed something was wrong, and looked at Ji Gang in front of him thoughtfully, and then at Baihu, who had murderous intent. He thought to himself, Ji Gang is using me as a swordsman. Although Ji Gang didn't say it clearly, Xiao Jian was very thoughtful. Ji Gang's intentions were immediately apparent. But Xiao Jian didn't care. No matter who you hit, it's not a hit. If you hit the White Tiger, you'll also drop martial arts fragments, right? If Baihu is ignorant, he doesn't mind teaching Baihu a lesson. After staying in the palace for a while, Ji Gang asked Xiao Jian and Baihu to rush to Wushuang City together. At the same time, the three Qin Shuang brothers have found the Ni Bodhisattva. The three of them brought the clay Bodhisattva to Shangba. Clay Bodhisattva's face was covered with sores. If Shangba hadn't known Clay Bodhisattva, he wouldn't have been able to recognize him. Ni Bodhisattva, why have you become like this? Shangba asked with emotion, with a puzzled look on his face. The clay Bodhisattva smiled bitterly. They say secrets must not be leaked, but I have leaked too many secrets, so God will not let me go. Leader Shang, you came to me with great fanfare, but you want to know the criticism from 10 years ago. Shangba's eyes changed immediately. He waved his hand and drove Qin Shuang and the others out. After confirming that there were only Ni Bodhisattva and himself on the first floor, Shangba asked in a deep voice. Ni Bodhisattva, have you found the wrong person? Fengyan and I don't look like they are capable of taking on big responsibilities. He has been training him carefully for more than 10 years, but after coming out of the mountain, he encountered setbacks again and again. Don't talk about helping him. Turn into a dragon when encountering a storm. As long as you don't hold him back, that's fine. When he met a boy from Jinyue, he came back defeated. How did this become a big deal? Mud Bodhisattva shook his head. Leader Shang, my calculation is correct. Are you upset because of the incident involving Jinyue Xiao Jian? Although he secludes himself from the outside world and rarely sees outsiders, he still knows the rumors in the world. What Xiao Jian did made the relationship between the court and the world more subtle. The Sun and Moon God sect was overwhelmed by Xiao Jian. It is impossible to go against the imperial court for a while. The pressure that the world will face will naturally be great. Shangba nodded with a dark face. Xiao Jian's presence made him feel like he was stuck in his throat. It's not that he can't kill Xiao Jian, but he exposed his trump card in order to kill Xiao Jian, which makes him feel a little worthless. Moreover, the meaning of his personal action is different from that of his disciples. If he takes action personally, the imperial court will definitely send a truly top expert. At that point, it will be a do-or-die situation, with no way out. Ni Bodhisattva had an incomprehensible look in his eyes and sighed. Leader Shang, what if I failed to calculate Xiao Jian's fate? What's the meaning? Shangba asked in confusion. The fate of all living beings in the world can be found in the river of destiny, but I can't see Xiao Jian's. Chapter 71. The clay Buddha smiled bitterly and said, I didn't have so many poisonous sores on my face originally, but since I spied on Xiao Jian's fate, the growth of the poisonous sores has become uncontrollable. Now I am poisoned and I don't have much time left. Shangba's pupils shrank and he looked at the clay Buddha in horror. He knew the ability of the clay Buddha. However, with the ability of the clay Buddha, he couldn't even spy on Xiao Jian's fate. What does that mean? The eyes of the clay Buddha suddenly dimmed, and strands of black blood flowed from the corners of his mouth. Shangba was shocked and hurriedly supported the clay Buddha who couldn't support himself. What's going on? Wasn't he fine just now? The clay Buddha opened his mouth and said with difficulty, Xiao Jian's fate is not something I can decide. Remember, don't provoke him. A murderous intent flashed in Shangba's eyes. Xiao Jian's fate is unpredictable, which is an unstable factor for him. He wants to dominate the world, how can he allow an unstable factor to exist? The clay Buddha held on to his last breath. Said in Shangba's ear, 9 heavens dragon roar shocking changes, fate meets shallow waters. After saying the last word, the clay Buddha passed away. Leaving behind Shangba with a cold face, he looked at the direction outside the hall, and his murderous intent surged. After more than 10 days of running around, Xiao Jian and Bai Hu led a large number of elite Jinyue to Wushuang City. Wushuang City Lord Du Guming heard that Bai Hu and Xiao Jian of Jinyue were coming. He had already led many subordinates to welcome them at the city gate. By the way, he welcomed Bai Hu and Xiao Jian. A few days ago, Jinyue sent news that Tianxiahui might attack Wushuang City, which scared him. The people of his Dugu family could not stop Tianxiahui at all. Now Wushuang City is guarded by Jinyue. Now Xiao Jian and Bai Hu have arrived, which greatly relieved him. After the group settled down, Bai Hu called Xiao Jian to the hall where he was resting. Bai Hu sat high in the main seat, his expression was cold and his eyes were slightly narrowed. He looked superior. General Xiao, the commander asked us to deal with the Tianxiahui. I wonder if you have any good ideas. Xiao Jian touched his chin. He was familiar with the plot and of course he didn't know how to break the current situation. However, Bai Hu looked like he had bad intentions. He wanted to push him out to confront Shangba head-on. Xiao Jian's eyes turned and he had an idea in his mind. I am a humble official, so I will naturally listen to the arrangements of the Tongji. Xiao Jian said modestly without showing any emotion. Anyway, as long as Bai Hu really wants to trick him, don't blame him for being rude. Bai Hu's eyes sank. General Xiao, this is not the time to be humble. If you have any ideas, show them as soon as possible. When you were in Dongchang City, weren't you very capable? Xiao Jian's face changed. How could it be the same? Shangba is not comparable to Shang Wenshan. Their cultivation is one heaven and one earth. If Shangba is really pissed off, he will not be able to escape even if he attacks directly. At that time, even if the court avenges him, it will be meaningless. Xiao Jian said lightly, I will deal with the 3 hall masters of Tianxiahui, how about letting you deal with Shangba? Bai Hu's face darkened. Shangba's strength is at least Grandmaster or above. He is only at the peak of Grandmaster, how can he deal with Shangba? Isn't that sending him to death? What's more, Ji Gang's intention is not to let them destroy Tianxiahui, but to cause some trouble for Tianxiahui. It would be best if they could suffer some losses like the Sun and Moon sect, so as not to jump around all day long. Bai Hu sneered. Since the commander has given the order, you should not hide it. This matter is left to you, young man, more experience. After speaking, Bai Hu waved his hand and asked Xiao Jian to retreat. It is obvious that he is bullying Xiao Jian for being young and having a lower position than him. He wants Xiao Jian to take the blame. Tianxiahui is one of the 3 top forces in the Ming dynasty. It is powerful and not easy to mess with. Bai Hu himself did not want to confront Shangba, so he let Xiao Jian take the lead. Xiao Jian sneered, bowed and left the hall. Looking at Xiao Jian's back, Bai Hu's eyes were cold. In his opinion, Xiao Jian was lucky to suppress the Sun and Moon sect. It happened that Dongfang Bubai was not there, otherwise, Xiao Jian would have been slapped to death by Dongfang Bubai. As long as Xiao Jian died in the hands of Tianxiahui this time, his nephew would definitely be valued by the Jinyue again. Outside the hall, Xiao Jian's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He remembered Bai Hu's oppression of him. Wait, I will play you to death. After Xiao Jian left the hall, he sent someone to Tianxiahui to deliver a letter to Fengyan. He asked the two to meet at a lake at the foot of the mountain. Fengyan was the best breakthrough point to deal with Tianxiahui. Shangba treated them as chess pieces and calculated everything. There were too many loopholes left. Fengyan didn't know it before, or didn't think about it. As long as Xiao Jian reminded them a little, they could turn their master and apprentice against each other. In Shenfeng Hall, Fengyan looked at each other when they saw the visiting card sent by Xiao Jian. "Brother, why do you think Xiao Jian wants us to do this?" Ni Feng asked in confusion. The Tianxiahui had known for a long time that a large number of Jinyue from the imperial court had entered Wushuang City. They also knew that Xiao Jian was in Wushuang City at the foot of Tianshan Mountain. But now the Jinyue and Tianxiahui were in a standoff. Xiao Jian suddenly called for the two of them, which made them a little confused. A gleam of brilliance flashed in Bu Jingyan's eyes. "No matter what he does, just go and see. After saying that, Bu Jingyan turned around and went down the mountain. Ni Feng followed behind. The two of them went straight to the place designated by Xiao Jian. Xiao Jian came to the lake early to wait. Looking at the tall mountains in the distance, I couldn't help but sigh. Tianxiahui really occupies a good place. This natural danger is typically easy to defend but difficult to attack. No wonder the imperial court has no way to conquer the world." Not long after, Xiao Jian saw two figures flying towards the mountain. With the two people's full efforts, they soon arrived at the lake. Next to the huge lake, there was only Xiao Jian. "You two arrived just in time." Xiao Jian said hello lightly. When Ni Feng heard this, he frowned slightly. "Master Xiao, what exactly do you want to see us for?" "Nothing's wrong. I just made breakthroughs in the function legs and cloud paling palms recently. I want to compete with you too." After saying that, Xiao Jian raised the corners of his mouth slightly and attacked directly towards the two of them. The two of them used their martial arts skills. Xiao Jian used both hands to fight against Bu Jingyan with his cloud-dispelling palm. Each move is no different from what Bu Jingyan used. Seeing Xiao Jian take action, Ni Feng used his function kick to attack Xiao Jian from all directions. Under the attack of the two men, Xiao Jian looked calm. No matter what moves the two used, he fought back with the same moves. This is still under the condition that Xiao Jian retains his strength. But even so, the two did not gain the slightest advantage. Even if they tried their best, they couldn't do anything to Xiao Jian. On the contrary, it was Xiao Jian who moved his hands and feet with ease and ease. Boom! As the two men ran out of moves, the battle stopped. Both Ni Feng and Ni Feng looked at Xiao Jian with dark faces, and their chests were about to explode. If they hadn't been unable to defeat Xiao Jian, both of them would have had the urge to strangle him to death. To use their martial arts to defeat them is to press their faces to the ground and rub them together. "Master Xiao, are you here just to humiliate my two brothers?" Ni Feng said through gritted teeth. "It's so infuriating. If it weren't for their brothers, they would have been severely beaten by Xiao Jian. Be mentally prepared, now you will be like Murong Fu, mentally disturbed." Xiao Jian waved his hand and said, "Isn't it over yet? You guys can take another move from me." After saying that, Xiao Jian's expression changed and he raised his right palm. It seems like a simple palm, but it seems to contain a world, blending with the heaven and earth. The huge spiritual energy of heaven and earth was driven by Xiao Jian's palm, and blasted towards the two brothers with a terrifying momentum. With one palm strike, the world was shocked. "This is..." Bu Jingyan's eyes widened and he was horrified when he looked at the oncoming palm prince. Based on his many years of experience in practicing cloud-dispelling palm, this style is definitely the cloud-dispelling palm. He couldn't be mistaken. But why has he never seen this move before? The two of them used all their strength, but were still blown away by Xiao Jian's palm. Although Xiao Jian has tried his best to control the power of this palm. But after all, this palm inspired the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Where can two people who have just entered the realm of masters stop them? I couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood on the spot. Bu Jingyan ignored his injured body, got up and asked, "What kind of palm technique are you doing?" Ni Feng also looked at Xiao Jian hesitantly. The brothers often competed with each other and knew each other's martial arts very well. Xiao Jian's palm is so similar to Bu Jingyan's cloud-dispelling palm. In other words, this is the Paiyan palm. Xiao Jian raised the corner of his mouth, looked at the shocked two people and smiled. Didn't you already guess it? Why don't you believe it? Bu Jingyan stared at Xiao Jian's eyes, trying to see something in his eyes. But nothing was seen. After a while, Bu Jingyan calmed down. Xiao Jian would not show his martial arts to them for no reason. This move must have a deep meaning. He stopped being anxious now and said directly, Master Xiao called our brothers out today. You won't just show off your cloud-expelling palm, right? Xiao Jian nodded. Bu Jingyan's expression was filled with admiration. He is worthy of being a god who does not cry death, and his determination is firm enough. Yes, I'm here to tell you some news. Shangba has already begun to murder you, so you too should be careful. Xiao Jian's words came out, but their expressions did not change at all. Shangba has taught them martial arts for more than 10 years, and Xiao Jian cannot separate this relationship with just a few words. Moreover, Xiao Jian is a Jin Yiwei and has a hostile relationship with Tianxiahui. Xiao Jian didn't care about the two people's reactions and continued, Shangba taught you all the martial arts, except for the last move. And this move is what he has reserved to deal with you. Speaking of this, Xiao Jian glanced at Bu Jingyan. In addition to the gloomy move of your cloud-dispelling palm, it also has another fatal weakness, that is, it cannot exert its power in places without water. Unless you can learn the last move, Shangba can easily kill you based on this alone. After Xiao Jian finished speaking, he stayed there quietly, leaving them space to think independently. Ni Feng looked complicated, with a trace of doubt flashing in his eyes. Xiao Jian's words made him unable to tell the truth from the lies for a moment. After all, the last move of Paiyan palm cannot be faked. However, that was his master after all. How could he doubt his master? Bu Jingyan looked confused, thinking of his childhood. At that time, it was the people of Tianxiahui who killed his father. That's why he joined Tianxiahui. This is the deepest secret in his heart. He has never told anyone. As for the weakness of Paiyan palm, it is very simple to know whether Xiao Jian lied to him. Just find a place without water and try it. The two looked at each other and said goodbye to Xiao Jian. At this moment, a figure came from the direction of Wushuang City at a very fast speed, carrying amazing momentum and murderous intent. People from Jinyiwei, junior brother Feng, retreat quickly. Bu Jingyan calmed down and started to run away after calling Ni Feng. They are mortal enemies with Jin Yiwei. That is to say, Xiao Jian has a lot of interactions with them, and they can be regarded as sympathetic to each other. Otherwise, based on Xiao Jian's identity as a Jin Yiwei, they would never be able to meet Xiao Jian in private. Especially when the two sides are confronting each other. But the person standing next to him was not Xiao Jian, but a Jin Yiwei who was at the peak of his master's level. Naturally, they would not stay and confront him head-on. Xiao Jian, don't stop them yet. In the distance, Bai Hu saw Ni Feng and the two heading towards Tianshan, and immediately shouted at Xiao Jian. As long as he can catch Ni Feng and Bu Jingyan, it will be a great achievement. Even if there is no progress in the future, he can still report to Ji Gang. When Xiao Jian heard this, he stood motionless. It's like he didn't hear it. Seeing Ni Feng and Bu Jingyan rushing up Tianshan Mountain, Bai Hu finally arrived in front of Xiao Jian. He asked angrily, Xiao Jian, how dare you disobey my orders? For those who deliberately let go of Tianxiahui, did you have a shady deal with Tianxiahui? Xiao Jian looked at Bai Hu coldly, as if he were a fool. If Lord White Tiger wants to catch Ni Feng, he might be able to catch him if he catches up now. Of course, the premise is that you can stop Shangba. Bai Hu's expression froze. I looked around nervously, but I didn't feel anyone's presence. Isn't Shangba on top of the Tianshan Mountains? How could he come down? Xiao Jian looked contemptuous. What about Jinyi Wei Tongji? I'm really very courageous. He was scared to death when he heard Shangba's name. Xiao Jian said calmly. Ni Feng and Bu Jingyan came down the mountain, how could Shangba not know? Maybe you are hiding somewhere and watching us now. Well, the muscles on Bai Hu's face twitched. If he faced Shangba, he really didn't have the confidence to save his own life. Xiao Jian sneered in his heart, and then ignored Bai Hu who was looking around. Turned around and returned to Wushuang City. Seeing Xiao Jian leaving, Baihu felt secretly resentful. I could only follow him calmly. The two brothers who returned to Tianxiahui showed nothing wrong at all. As usual, however, Bu Jingyan and Nifeng found a place without water vapor and secretly tried his cloud-expelling palm. The result was as expected, the power was greatly reduced. He couldn't even use half of his strength. Brother, do you think this was an accident? Nifeng's mouth moved and he asked with difficulty. Accident, do you think it is an accident? Then is the last skill I am missing also an accident? Bu Jingyan's expression remained as usual, with a flash of fear in his eyes. The hole Xiangba dug for him was indeed big enough. He also thought about seeking revenge from Xiangba after he learned martial arts. Fortunately, Xiao Jian reminded me, otherwise I would have been stuck in a hole and couldn't climb out. Since then, I wonder if it was a misunderstanding between the two of them. The two brothers discovered that Xiangba's attitude toward them had changed during this period. In the past, the three brothers were the first to know anything that happened in the world. But in the past few days, Xiangba didn't even call the two of them when discussing matters. If it were before, they would only think that Qin Shuang was in charge of the affairs of the Tianxiahui. It's normal to know more than they do. But now, the two of them don't even know the most basic information. This is not normal. Thinking of Xiao Jian's words, the two of them were confused for a moment. Do not know what to do. On this day, Xiangba suddenly summoned three people for discussion. Looking at Xiangba sitting high above, Feng Yun and the two felt inexplicably distant. Xiangba said to the three people, "You also know about the Jinyi guards stationed in Wushuang City. The imperial court is deliberately trying to beat me up. Nifeng, Bu Jingyan, you two will lead the crowd to Wushuang City to call for formation tomorrow. I want them to know that Tianxiahui is not something they can come here to act arrogantly." Nifeng and Bu Jingyan looked at each other. The eyes are full of meaning. Qin Shuang heard this and said, "Master, my disciple, please go with your two junior brothers." The three brothers traveled around the world and always advanced and retreated together. This was the first time they acted separately. Moreover, they already knew who Jin Yiwei was. That was Baihu, one of the four great acquaintances of Jin Yiwei. His cultivation has reached the peak of a master. There is no way that Feng Yun and the two of them can be his opponents. Not to mention, Xiao Jian is also in Wushuang City. Xiangba waved his hand and said, "Xuanzhi, you have other tasks, I will arrange them for you later." Then, he turned to Nifeng and said, "Your mission is to lure out the white tiger. When the time comes, I will show up and take his life." Nifeng cupped their hands, and then retreated at Xiangba's signal. The two people who walked out of the hall had expressionless faces. It's like he doesn't know anything. However, I don't know what they are thinking. The next day, Feng Yun and his two men led the elites of Tianxiahui down the mountain. In Wushuang City, Jin Yiwei received the news and felt as if he was facing a powerful enemy. Murderous intent flashed in Baihu's eyes. Gather everyone in the hall to discuss retreating from the enemy. The Tianxiahui knew that he was in charge of Wushuang City, but they still came down the mountain to provoke him. This was a slap in his face. "Xiao Jian, when the people from the Tianxiahui come, you will deal with them." Baihu turned around and said to Xiao Jian. Xiao Jian nodded and touched his chin, somewhat confused about the operations of the Tianxiahui. It stands to reason that with the dominance of the city, it is impossible to plan for Wushuang City at this juncture. He should understand that this is useless work. Even if he takes Wushuang City, it won't mean much. It will only make the Ming court send more powerful opponents. Based on the current situation, if Tianxiahui really wanted to go to war with Ming dynasty, it would not have the upper hand at all. Unless he has other purposes. For just a moment, Xiao Jian still couldn't understand Xiangba's intention. "Sir, I will deal with the three hall masters of the Tianxiahui, and I will leave the others to you." Xiao Jian didn't want to face the older generation masters like Xiangba. Take advantage of the crowds now and say hello to Baihu. Whatever happens then is none of his business. Baihu didn't know what Xiao Jian meant. I secretly hate it, but he couldn't say let Xiao Jian deal with Xiangba. Isn't that just giving people a lesson? He could only grit his teeth and nod. Soon, Feng Yun and the others arrived at Wushuang City. Xiao Jian and a group of royal guards stood at the top of the city. The atmosphere was tense, as if a war could break out at any time. Xiao Jian looked at Feng Yan, but did not see Qin Shuang's figure, and was wondering. Baihu hurriedly asked Xiao Jian to go down and deal with the two of them. At the same time, a large number of Jin Yiwei also rushed down the city wall and started fighting with everyone in Tianxiahui. Xiao Jian jumped up and appeared in front of Feng Yan. Ni Feng and Bu Jingyan couldn't help but twitch their mouths when they saw Xiao Jian in front of them. Against Xiao Jian, they had no chance of winning. But you have to fight even if you can't win, so the two of them immediately rushed forward. Xiao Jian dealt with the two people's attacks while transmitting messages into the secret. Why are you here? Feng Yan and the others surrounded Xiao Jian and attacked, while transmitting a message. This is the gang leader's order. Where's Qin Shuang? Why didn't he come? When Xiao Jian asked this question, both of them fell silent. Xiao Jian knew immediately that the two of them had begun to suspect Xiang Ba. I was secretly happy. So, the next three people started their performance. Feng Yan naturally went all out, but Xiao Jian was fighting and paddling at the same time. The system notifications in my ears never stopped. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the function leg fragment, martial arts experience +10. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the cloud repelling palm fragment, martial arts experience +10. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the Tai Chi fragments and automatically understanding Tai Chi. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the internal force fragments, the internal force value +100. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the internal force fragments, the internal force value +15. A group of people fought for a long time, but the results were evenly matched. With Xiao Jian letting loose, the two of them fought without any pressure. Just attack and gain experience while fighting. Treat Xiao Jian as a sparring partner. Xiao Jian was also happy. Anyway, he has martial arts fragments to pick up, so it will definitely not be a loss. And make a lot of money. There are not many opportunities for a large group of people to give him martial arts fragments. On the city wall, the white tiger's face grew darker as he looked at it. It would be fine if Jin Yiwei's side didn't have the upper hand. After all, the strength of Tianxiahui is there. But what about Xiao Jian? After fighting for a long time, the two first-level grandmasters were not eliminated. There was obviously a problem. The more I watched, the angrier I became. I couldn't help but shout loudly, Xiao Jian, fight quickly. Driven by internal force, the white tiger's voice spread throughout the battlefield. This frightened the two people who were just comprehending. He looked at Xiao Jian across from him with vigilance. They also know that if Xiao Jian is serious, the two of them will never be Xiao Jian's opponent. Xiao Jian said while fighting, "Don't be nervous, I'll beat you guys." After saying that, Xiao Jian continued paddling, causing Feng and Yun on the opposite side to have their eyebrows jump. I felt flattered. He even started to send messages to Xiao Jian for advice. In order to make the two of them more convinced of him, Xiao Jian even spent his experience points to raise the cloud paling palm and function legs to the level of Dacheng, so that they can answer their questions. After all, the longer you fight with them, the greater Xiao Jian will gain. What is the value of this experience? I'll make it back after playing for a while. When Baihu saw that Xiao Jian didn't take his words seriously at all, his anger suddenly surged. He rushed into the battlefield in a flash. He actually used the big one to bully the small ones and punched Feng Yun and Feng Yun in person. Paling Cloud Palm. Wind God Legs. Ni Feng and Ni Feng took action instantly and jointly attacked Baihu. Boom. On the battlefield, a huge roar sounded. Feng and Yun took more than 10 steps back before stopping, but the white tiger on the opposite side did not take a step back. Standing straight on the spot, he looked like a great master. Baihu glared at Xiao Jian and sneered, "Is this the strength of the number one person of the younger generation?" The rumors are indeed false. Although he only threw one punch, he already had a general understanding of the strength of Feng and Yun. The two of them working together were far behind the peak of the Grandmaster. Xiao Jian actually fought with the two of them for a long time without a clear winner, which made Baihu have great doubts about Xiao Jian's strength. He couldn't help but look down on him a little. When he was in Jinling, he heard that Xiao Jian had seriously injured Xiang Wenshan, so he was very afraid of Xiao Jian. Now think about it, rumors in the martial arts world are not credible. Also, how could a 17-year-old young man seriously injure a master? Baihu waved his hand and shouted to Xiao Jian, "You don't need to take care of these two people, go back and stay." Not polite at all. Xiao Jian looked at Baihu, his eyes flashed, and he immediately knew what Xiangba was up to. It was obvious that he wanted to use the court to get rid of Fengyan and the other two. Fengyan on the opposite side also suddenly thought of this problem. Xiangba said that he would take action when the time came, but now Baihu has taken action, why didn't Xiangba appear? It was obviously a trap dug for them. The two looked serious and looked at Baihu on the opposite side nervously. Maybe the two of them will really fall here today. The murderous aura on Baihu became stronger and stronger. Xiao Jian said calmly, "Master Baihu, Xiangba may be watching in secret." Baihu's breath stagnated. A flash of anger flashed in his eyes. What does Xiao Jian mean by this? Use Xiangba to scare him. Xiangba, if he dares to come, I will slap him to death. Baihu gritted his teeth and said, then he flashed and killed Fengyan and the others. The strong murderous aura made the whole battlefield solemn. Xiao Jian's mouth twitched. What a beautiful word. When Xiangba comes, I'm afraid Baihu will be the first to run away. Watching Fengyan and the others fighting with Baihu, Xiao Jian stood there with a calm face. Now he has a lot of experience points at all times. I'm not afraid of them fighting hard, I'm afraid they don't fight. Facing Baihu, Fengyan and the others were instantly under great pressure. That is to say, the two of them have a deep foundation and can hold on for a while under the hands of the Grand Master. However, as time went by, the pressure on the two of them increased. There were more than 10 wounds of varying sizes on their bodies. The most serious was the internal injury. Every time they fought with Baihu, their internal organs were hit hard. Under the pressure, their internal organs had long been overwhelmed. There was a trace of blood at the corner of their mouth. Ha 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 ha, the leader of the Tianxiahui is just like this. Seeing victory in sight, Baihu laughed. His right fist condensed a terrifying might. In an instant, the light was brilliant. This was his unique skill, the Iron Horse Meteor Fist. A punch fell, like a falling meteorite. Fengyan and the others looked unwilling. Looking at the punch falling from the air, they condensed the last of their internal strength and blasted at Baihu with all their strength. Oh, it's really troublesome. Xiao Jian sighed, and his figure flashed in front of Nifeng and the others. A golden dragon roared out from him. The dragon roar shook the heaven and earth, and everyone on the battlefield couldn't help but turn their eyes to Xiao Jian. Baihu was stunned, and then showed murderous intent. He didn't expect Xiao Jian to stand in front of Nifeng and Bu Jingyan and become his enemy. However, he did not retract this punch, but increased the intensity of the attack. He vowed to kill Xiao Jian with his fist. Boom! A thunderous sound rang out from the ground. The golden dragon and Baihu's fists collided, and a mushroom cloud rose on the battlefield. The terrible shock wave was centered on Xiao Jian and pushed in all directions. Thump, thump, thump. Under the reaction force, Baihu retreated step by step until he stopped after more than 10 steps. There were palm-deep footprints on the ground. When the smoke and dust dissipated, Xiao Jian stood in place, without any injuries on his body, but the ground under his feet sank and covered his ankles. Baihu saw that Xiao Jian was unharmed, and he could not help but get angry and shouted, "Xiao Jian, which side are you on?" Baihu was about to take down Fengyan. Unexpectedly, Xiao Jian ruined his plan. Moreover, Xiao Jian's strength shocked him. It's ridiculous that he thought Xiao Jian was just a name for nothing. Now it seems that when fighting against Fengyan, Xiao Jian didn't show his full strength at all. Xiao Jian waved his hand lightly and chuckled. The commander asked us to handle the affairs of the Tianxiahui, not to ask us to provoke a war with the Tianxiahui. This is what Ji Gang meant, and it is also Xiao Jian's idea. If the Tianxiahui and the imperial court fight, he can indeed get a lot of martial arts fragments in a short period of time. But this will not last long. Only by maintaining a balance between the imperial court, the Tianxiahui, and the Sun Moon sect can the value be maximized. Let them provide him with martial arts fragments continuously. Besides, if Baihu really kills Fengyan and the others, it will really suit Xiangba's wishes. At the same time, it also gives Xiangba a reason to take action. His disciples were killed, so it's not too much for him to take revenge. When Shangba takes action, no one present can escape. Baihu's fingers trembled with anger. His chest rose and fell violently. Xiao Jian, I think you have joined the Tianxiahui, right? You haven't given me an explanation for the last meeting with them by the lake. Xiao Jian showed a trace of impatience. Explain. What can I explain to you? I will explain to the commander-in-chief when I see him later. After all, Baihu is not his direct superior. Give him face and call him sir, but it's nothing if you don't give him face. With Ji Gang's gold medal protection, Xiao Jian is not afraid of anyone in the Jinyue. At worst, I can just leave Jinyue and venture into the world. How dare you? Baihu rushed towards Xiao Jian with murderous intent. His cultivation of the peak of a master burst out. His terrifying aura made everyone present feel as if a huge stone was pressing on their hearts. Xiao Jian sneered and went forward to fight with Baihu, unwilling to be outdone. For a moment, everyone in Jinyue and Tianxiahui was stunned. What's going on? Xiao Jian actually fought with Lord Baihu. Both of them are high-ranking members of Jinyue. It would be a joke to fight on the battlefield. Is Xiao Jian a member of our Tianxiahui? As they fought, everyone watched the battle between Xiao Jian and Baihu from the corner of their eyes. Xiao Jian was wearing a star-shaped gauze dress and using all kinds of top martial arts. He used Tianshuang Fist, Paiyan Palm, and Function Leg, which were better than the 3 hall masters of Tianxiahui. And from time to time, a golden dragon roared out. Baihu was beaten so hard that he took a step back from time to time. In front of everyone, Xiao Jian actually suppressed Baihu. Baihu was completely embarrassed. His face was red with shame and his eyes were bloodshot. Xiao Jian, you deserve to die. Baihu shouted and dodged from Xiao Jian's attack. Then, his aura rose again. The whole person seemed to merge with this world. Although everyone could see Baihu's figure, they could not sense his breath at all. Xiao Jian's face was solemn. He knew that Baihu was ready to take real action. As a peak grandmaster, Baihu could barely mobilize a trace of the power of heaven and earth. The power was very strong, but the sequelae were also quite large. In Dongcheng City, Shang Wenshan, who was seriously injured, forcibly mobilized the power of heaven and earth, and then could not withstand the backlash. He didn't even have the strength to run away. He almost died in Xiao Jian's hands. Baihu was not injured, and it was unknown how much power he could exert. Xiao Jian stared at the white tiger in front of him. To be on the safe side, he then used the divine elephant's prison suppressing power that he had not used for a long time. The divine elephant appeared, and the space around Xiao Jian was shaking. A faint space fluctuation made everyone's face change wildly. They retreated one after another. The battle in the entire Wushuang city was also suspended. Everyone retreated desperately, fearing that they would be involved in the aftermath of the battle between Xiao Jian and Baihu. Baihu looked at the divine elephant above Xiao Jian's head, and his mouth twitched constantly. The pressure from the divine elephant was too strong, as if he was facing a great master. Being in the quagmire, the world on all sides was rejecting him. It became more than 10 times more difficult to borrow the power of heaven and earth. I don't believe it, you are really that strong. Baihu gritted his teeth and tried his best to integrate into the world. The power of heaven and earth controlled by him became more and more majestic. The whole person exudes a crystal white light. Iron Horse Meteor Fist. The white tiger roared, carrying the power of heaven and earth and rushing towards Xiao Jian. A gleam of brilliance flashed in Xiao Jian's eyes. Let me show you my latest trick. The divine elephant above Xiao Jian's head roared, with dazzling light flashing in its mouth. Xiao Jian felt that his body was hollowed out. All the power gathered in his right hand with the roar of the divine elephant. A transparent spear suddenly appeared. He pinched it, and even felt like touching a real object. Looking at the rushing white tiger, Xiao Jian sneered. The spear in his hand flew out of his hand, and the target was the white tiger's fist. The spear seemed to cross the space and instantly appeared in front of the white tiger. Collided with its fists. Boom! A strong light flashed, and the figure of the white tiger disappeared in front of everyone. Feeling something was wrong, Xiao Jian immediately used all his strength and turned to run in the opposite direction. When Feng Yun and the other 2 saw Xiao Jian running away, they immediately followed him and ran away madly. At the same time, at the gate of Wushuang City, a destructive energy burst out. Forming a huge spherical energy, it shot in all directions. Puff, puff, puff. People 100 meters away were hit by the invisible energy. Blood spurted out like crazy. Even Du Guming and others who were watching the excitement on the city wall could not escape the fate of vomiting blood. The whole Wushuang city could hear this terrifying sound. Tianxiahui, the first floor. Xiangba had been sitting quietly on his leader's throne. His expression was cold and terrifying, until he sensed the terrifying energy fluctuations of Wushuang city at the foot of the mountain. A slight smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Muttered, "God's will. I, Xiangba, just don't believe in fate." The smoke and dust dissipated, and everyone looked at a large pit dozens of meters deep at the gate of the city in shock. What is this? How could this happen? This power, I'm afraid even a Grand Master is only this powerful. Master Baihu's strength is really unpredictable. Where is Xiao Jian? Could he have been killed by Master Baihu? The people who had recovered from their shock began to look for Xiao Jian. But they saw Xiao Jian standing in front of everyone in the Tianxiahui with a look of fear on his face. He stared straight at the depths of the pit. The power of the spear of Hades was far beyond his expectations. I wonder if Baihu is dead or not. Fengyan and the others swallowed hard, looking at Xiao Jian beside them as if they had seen a ghost. Is this the power that a master can produce? Fortunately, Xiao Jian did not use this trick when he fought with them just now. Otherwise, the bodies of the two of them would not be found, right? Under the attention of everyone, a figure stood up tremblingly in the deep pit. It seemed that he would fall down if touched. The clothes on his body were so tattered that they could not cover his body and turned into beggar clothes. Through the strands of cloth, you can still see the blood oozing from his body. Cough, cough, cough. Baihu stood up with difficulty and couldn't help coughing. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Nifeng and Bu Jingyan looked at each other. Through each other's eyes, they could see the shock and fear in their eyes. Is this the true strength of Xiao Jian, who had fought against them many times? How could he make a master become like this? They are so lucky to be alive. The two of them made up their minds that they would never fight Xiao Jian again. Baihu's miserable condition amazed everyone around them. Hiss, is this Baihu? Master Baihu at the top of the master. Isn't this too miserable? Xiao Jian is so cruel. He doesn't even let his own people go. The people of Tianxiahui and Jinyue were whispering. Hearing the discussion of the crowd, Baihu was ashamed and angry. He shouted with all his strength, "Xiao Jian, you dare to rebel and betray the court." The shrill cry spread throughout the city gate. He wanted to prove Xiao Jian's guilt. He went back to the commander and complained to Xiao Jian. He made him pay for it. Xiao Jian touched his nose and felt a little embarrassed. I did go a little too far. How can Baihu hold his head up in front of everyone after beating up the dignified Jinyue Tongji like this? However, this matter cannot be blamed entirely on him. After all, Baihu completely relied on his higher cultivation than himself. He forcibly escalated the situation. If the court and Tianxiahui fought, wouldn't it cause trouble for him? Xiao Jian just wanted the court and the martial arts sects to consume each other while maintaining a relatively balanced situation. And he himself participated madly in this process. Improve his own strength. What's wrong? If there is really a mistake, it is Baihu's fault. Xiao Jian looked at Baihu's pitiful appearance and said lightly, I will also tell the commander that you, Baihu, are stubborn and want to start a war between the court and Tianxiahui. Baihu was so angry that he spit out a mouthful of blood, staggered twice, and almost fell down. It seems that he was really injured. It couldn't even stand steadily. Xiao Jian ignored the shaky white tiger. He said to Nifeng and Bu Jingyan, why are you still staying here? Why don't you run away quickly? Are you waiting for me to take action? Nifeng and Bu Jingyan twitched their mouths, turned around and left quickly with the people of Tianxiahui. This battle, both Tianxiahui and Jinyue suffered heavy casualties. Nearly 100 bodies were left at the city gate. Some were from Jinyue and some were from Tianxiahui. The only winner in the field was Xiao Jian. After calling silently in his heart, the system panel appeared in front of Xiao Jian. Name: Xiao Jian. Age: 17. Skills: the first chapter of the Divine Elephant Prison Power, 236 giant elephant particles. Can condense the spear of the underworld god. Martial arts: Great Power Vajrapalm, Great Battle Star Shift, Great Wind God Leg, Great Cloud Palm, Minor Frost Fist, Minor Heart Demon Attraction, Minor Dragon Subduing 18 Palms, Minor Power Transformation, Minor Poison Sutra, Minor Mysterious Yin Claw, Minor Arhat Fist, Minor North Sea Divine Art, Minor Prajna Palm, Minor Steel Smashing Hand, Minor Iron Horse Meteor Fist. Martial Arts Experience Value, 13,140. Internal Force Value, 17,585. Xiao Jian raised his eyebrows. The harvest was unexpectedly much. But think about it, in this battle, the number of people participating in the Tianxiahui and Jinyue is much more than the 100 people of the Sun and Moon sect in Dongcheng City. It is reasonable to harvest more. Shangba, I hope you don't be scared and keep sending people over. Xiao Jian said in his heart, and then he didn't even look at the embarrassed white tiger in the deep pit. Flashed back to Wushuang City. Tianxiahui, Shangba was in a good mood. The violent fluctuations in Wushuang City just now made him think that Fengyan and the other two had been defeated. After all, that kind of energy fluctuation could not be produced by Fengyan. It was not something that the two masters could withstand. The only possibility was that a master appeared from the Jinyue. He personally killed Fengyan and the other two. Good disciple, master will definitely avenge you. A smile flashed in Shangba's eyes. His ambition was exposed. Suddenly, a disciple from the gang ran into the hall to report. Report, gang leader, the masters of Shenfeng Hall and Feiyan Hall are back. Back, it's good to be back. As soon as he finished speaking, Shangba was stunned, looking at the disciple kneeling below and asked, "What did you say? Who is back?" "Boss, the leaders of the Kamikaze Hall and the Feiyan Hall who attacked Wushuang City are back." Shangba's face was dark. He clenched his hands tightly, almost losing control of his emotions. It took a long time for Shangba to recover. Just come back and let them in. After the gang members left, Shangba let out a long sigh of relief. It relieved the depression in my heart. Before the storm comes, adjust your mentality. Soon, the three Fengyan brothers came to Shangba. See the gang leader. The three of them saluted Shangba. Shangba nodded. He said calmly, "Fenger, Yuner, how is your attack on Wushuang City going?" Ni Feng and Bu Jingyan looked at each other quietly. Then he said, "Master, the Jinyue people are too strong. The disciples and others were defeated and failed to capture Wushuang City." Shangba nodded and continued to ask about the two of them in Wushuang City. As Ni Feng spoke, Shangba's face became increasingly ugly. He murmured, "Xiao Jian, it's you who ruined my good deeds again." Unexpectedly, his plan was ruined by Xiao Jian. That Baihu was also a waste. A peak master couldn't handle a young boy who had just become a master. Shangba wanted to go out and kill Xiao Jian himself. "Okay, I just had some insights for my master, so I couldn't rush over. Just hope you're all right. Wushuang City must be captured. You guys take a rest and go there again in a few days. I will have my own plans then." After saying that, Shangba waved his hand and drove the three people out of the hall. Ni Feng and Bu Jingyan looked ugly. Xiao Jian was not something they could deal with, and Shangba actually let them go. Isn't this an obvious way to ask them to die? If it had been before, they wouldn't have doubted Shangba's intentions. But the seeds of suspicion have been planted, and Shangba's behavior feels abnormal no matter how he looks at it. Now it seems that Shangba's explanation is simply untenable. What occasional insights? Why did it happen when they were fighting? The two worried people returned to their rooms and could not calm down for a long time. Think about how to face the next situation. After a few people retreated, Shangba pressed the gang leader's throne, and a dark tunnel entrance suddenly appeared on the ground. Under the main hall on the first floor, there is actually a huge underground space. Even Qin Shuang and the others, who have lived in Tianxiahui for nearly 20 years, don't know this. Shangba descended the stairs. What came into view were 12 strange people. There are both fat and thin men and women, and there is even a person who looks like a child. 11 people formed a circle around this person and sat in meditation. The arrival of Shangba woke up the people inside instantly. The person with a face like a child and a vague aura is obviously a being who has stepped into the realm of a great master. "Leader Shang, why are you here?" Shangba said calmly. "Tong Huang, you have been hiding here for so long, now it is your turn to help me with things." Hearing this, the child emperor chuckled and said, "What the male leader can't do, there's nothing we can do." They know Shangba's strength best. More than 20 years ago, Shangba had already reached the Grand Master level. The current level of cultivation is even more unfathomable. Among them, he, who has the highest level of cultivation, is just a first-time Grand Master. In front of Shangba, he is nothing. Shangba shook his head and said, "There are some things that I can't do conveniently, so I will naturally use you." With the strength of Feng and Yun, he wanted to get rid of them. It's just a slap in the face. But things can't be done like this. If Tianxiahui wants to go far, Shangba will never take action personally unless it is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, the hearts of the people in Tianxiahui will be scattered. The child emperor nodded. Now that Shangba asked for his help, he couldn't refuse. He responded immediately. The next few days, Xiao Jian has been staying in the room and wandering around Wushuang City when he has nothing to do. As for Baihu, after a few days of recuperation, his injuries have improved a lot. No longer looking shaky, but his face was still ugly and his internal injuries were very serious. After being beaten violently by Xiao Jian, his face had long been lost. In the past few days, I have been hiding in my room to recover from my injuries. Unless absolutely necessary, he didn't even step out of the room. Until the people of Tianxiahui came to the city again. The white tiger just appeared at the top of Wushuang City. Xiao Jian was also invited to the city wall by Du Guming. Looking at the two people in front of Feng Yun, Xiao Jian was speechless. The less he wanted Feng Yun and Feng Yun to die, the happier they were. Even though he knew he was no match for him, he still dared to come to Wushuang City. Xiao Jian jumped directly and came to the front of everyone in Tianxiahui. The message said, "Why are you here again?" Ni Feng smiled bitterly. "The gang leader has an order, so I have to come." In front of Xiao Jian, both of them looked a little unnatural. I really can't beat him. Especially when they saw Baihu being beaten so miserably by Xiao Jian in front of them. The two of them felt guilty for a while. They were afraid that Xiao Jian would also give them a big move. Xiao Jian frowned, feeling something was wrong. Shangba is good at calculations, and there is no way that Feng and Yun will be able to do anything in vain. Knowing that they were no match for him, he sent people over again and again. They're a conspiracy, Xiao Jian murmured to himself, raising his heart at the same time. Since you want to attack the city, let me help you. If you have the ability, come and do it. Xiao Jian smiled faintly and immediately attacked the two of them. Feng Yun and the two fought hard, but found that Xiao Jian was still flirting with them. And after giving guidance on the moves, the two of them felt relieved. As soon as Xiao Jian and the others took action, the people from Tianxiahui and Jinyue also started to charge. There were shouts of kill everywhere. As time went by, Xiao Jian and the other three still couldn't decide the winner. The fight was back and forth. In Xiao Jian's ears, the system beeps continuously. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the fragment of the cloud expelling palm, the experience value is +10. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the function leg fragment, experience value +10. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the fire palm and automatically comprehending the fire palm. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the internal force fragments, the internal force value +100. Ding! Congratulations to the host for picking up the internal force fragments, the internal force value +100. The white tiger on the city wall looked livid. Xiao Jian was not so gentle when he hit him. If he says he has no second thoughts, even if he kills the white tiger, he won't believe it. Du Guming and others on the city wall also discovered this problem. Everyone has seen Xiao Jian's strength. That devastating attack has everyone feeling frightened until now. But facing Feng and Yun, Xiao Jian's strength plummeted. This is no longer a simple release of water, it is simply a flood. No matter what other people think, Xiao Jian's mind is always focused on his surroundings. Suddenly, a vague fluctuation came. The target turned out to be the two Feng Yun people fighting against him. I see, Xiao Jian murmured to himself. Only then did he understand Shangba's plan. He clearly wanted Feng Yun to die in his hands. Just imagine, he is fighting against Feng Yun. Suddenly, Feng Yun died. Besides Xiao Jian, could it be anyone else besides Xiao Jian? Judging from the obscure fluctuations, this person must be extremely proficient in the art of stealth and assassination. In Tianxiahui, except for the 12 evils of Tianqi, no one else has this ability. Xiao Jian remained calm. When he approached Feng Yan and the two, Xiao Jian suddenly exploded. The golden dragon roared out. 1, 2. Until 18 giant golden dragons surrounded him and Feng Yan. The sudden change made Feng and Yan feel like they were facing a formidable enemy. In the blink of an eye, he used the move to press the bottom of the box and hit Xiao Jian. Xiao Jian didn't even look at the two people's attacks, and the star gauze clothes appeared on his body. Blocked the two attacks. On the other side, the golden dragon circled around them and rushed directly behind Feng Yan. Boom! The huge sound attracted everyone's attention. The two of them looked at the smoke and dust behind them in surprise, and looked inside with vigilance. Just now, the two of them thought Xiao Jian was targeting them. As a result, under Xiao Jian's attack, they sensed someone behind them. This made the hairs on both of them stand on end. With their cultivation level, they didn't even know they were being touched behind their backs. When the smoke cleared, a figure was revealed inside, holding an iron broom and looking bohemian. His aura didn't reveal the slightest bit, so he obviously had a good level of cultivation. There is even a hint of the fusion of heaven and earth in him. The faces of Feng Yan and Yan changed drastically, and they quickly retreated to Xiao Jian's side. Everyone looked strange. For those who didn't know, they thought they were in the same group as Xiao Jian. When encountering danger, his first reaction was to hide behind Xiao Jian. Xiao Jian's eyes lit up. The man was instantly recognized. The iron broom is one of the 12 evil spirits in Tianqi. The peak of cultivation as a master. Iron broom stared at Xiao Jian with extremely cold eyes. Just now, he almost killed Feng Yan and went back to restore Shangba's life. Unexpectedly, Xiao Jian actually stopped him. Ni Feng looked solemn and asked, "Who are you, Your Excellency? Why are you hiding behind us?" Ni Feng's face was extremely ugly. My inner vigilance against the iron broom was heightened to the extreme. Iron broom bowed his hands towards Ni Feng and the others. He opened his mouth and said, "Tai was ordered by Leader Shang to help the two leaders deal with the Jin Yiwei. Please also ask the two hall masters to join hands to deal with this person." Iron broom looked at Xiao Jian with murderous intent in his eyes. Although Xiao Jian is only a young man with the first level of Grand Master, but the strength is very strong. The two of them had just exchanged a move, and they were evenly matched. Moreover, what he is best at is assassination, and now it has been exposed. His true combat power was greatly reduced. There is really no absolute certainty. While dealing with Xiao Jian, he could also perfectly kill Feng Yan and Feng Yan. Only when Feng and Yan help him deal with Xiao Jian is the best time to take action. Xiao Jian sneered in his heart. This can also deceive unsuspecting people. But in front of Xiao Jian, this trick was not enough. Rolling his eyes, Xiao Jian stared at the iron broom. The inner demon was activated instantly, and his golden gaze was aimed at Iron Broom's eyes. Unexpectedly asked, "What are you doing in Wushuang City?" Iron Broom blurted out, "Kill Feng Yan," under the interference of the inner demon. As soon as the words came out, he reacted immediately. He looked at Xiao Jian with murderous eyes. Feng Yan and his eyebrows jumped wildly. What's the situation? Is he really here to kill them? Just now he said that he was following Shangba's orders, and the two were still a little confused. I don't know whether it is true or not. After all, Shangba said that he had his own plans, and no one knew what they were. But now he actually said that he was here to kill himself. Feng Yan was stunned for a moment. You are looking for death. Iron Broom was angry and waved the broom in his hand at Xiao Jian. Under the huge internal force, even the air was blasted with a roar. Feng Yan and his two hurriedly retreated. Xiao Jian was not in a hurry and fought with Iron Broom. The movements of the two were extremely conspicuous on the battlefield. No matter what moves the Iron Broom on the opposite side makes, Xiao Jian can block it. Feng Yan and his two companions' expressions are unpredictable. Seeing Xiao Jian fighting with the Grand Master Peak, it is inexplicable. Brother, do you think he is really sent by Master to kill us? Bu Jingyan's face is cold. What do you think? He doesn't know what Shangba is thinking. Why did he suddenly kill the two of them? But Bu Jingyan knows that Xiangba must have bad intentions to accept him as a disciple. Otherwise, he would not have killed his whole family that year. Nifeng is a little lonely. Turning his head to look in the direction of Tianshan, he feels heavy. Iron Broom attacks Xiao Jian for a long time. Knowing that there is no way to repel Xiao Jian, he kills Feng Yun and his two companions hiding behind Xiao Jian. He snorted coldly and left. With the blessing of strange body movements, he disappeared in front of everyone in the blink of an eye. Xiao Jian looked at the back of Iron Broom, and a smile flashed in his eyes. Turning to Nifeng, he said, "Don't you still believe that Xiangba wants to kill you?" Bu Jingyan didn't say anything, but his cold face was obviously very cold. Nifeng smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Master Xiao, I don't understand why. He has always treated Xiangba as his father and obeyed his orders. Even if Xiangba kept a trick and didn't teach him the last move of the Wind God leg, there is no reason to kill him." Xiao Jian looked at Nifeng with pity. "I wonder what will happen when Nifeng knows the truth." "Nifeng doesn't know, then Master Bu must know why Xiangba wants to kill you, right?" Xiao Jian turned to ask Bu Jingyan. Bu Jingyan looked at Xiao Jian in surprise. "What do you know?" He has never told anyone about his affairs. Xiao Jian has no reason to know. Xiao Jian shrugged. "What you know, I know." Nifeng didn't know what riddle the two were playing, but his senior brother must know something. He looked at Bu Jingyan with a strong sense of doubt. Bu Jingyan glanced at Nifeng, turned to look at Xiao Jian and asked, "Why did Xiangba want to kill junior brother Feng?" Nifeng was brought to Tianxiahui by Xiangba himself since he was a child. There was no reason for Xiangba to attack Nifeng. Xiao Jian said lightly, "Do you remember the heart demon attraction?" Nifeng and the others' faces changed. Suddenly remembered the reaction of the Iron Broom just now. Xiao Jian just asked, "And the Iron Broom summoned Xiangba? This is not normal at all." The two said in unison, "You know the heart demon attraction." When the three brothers went to Bili, one of the purposes was the heart demon attraction. In the end, the white-haired fairy ran away with the coffin. Everyone's plan was in vain. Only Xiao Jian had stayed in front of the golden coffin for a while. Could it be that Xiao Jian learned the heart demon attraction at that time? It's too well hidden. Xiao Jian nodded. "Yes, you should also know the effect of the heart demon yin, right? It can see the most painful memories in the heart of a person." Nifeng, Bu Jingyan's past he remembers. What about your past? Xiao Jian's mouth corners slightly lifted, looking at Nifeng with a smile. Nifeng was struck by lightning. His past, hasn't he been brought to Tianxiahui by Xiangba since he was a child? What other past does he have? For a moment, he fell into deep memories. But he couldn't remember anything. Bu Jingyan looked at Xiao Jian in horror. Could it be that Nifeng, like him, had an unknown life experience? For a moment, the three of them were silent. Not far away, the Jinyue and the people of Tianxiahui were still fighting fiercely. From time to time, someone screamed and fell to the ground, but it didn't affect the three of them at all. For a long time, Nifeng looked at Xiao Jian, wanting to say something but stopping. Bu Jingyan, who was standing by, looked at Nifeng and said, "Master Xiao, can you let junior brother recall his past?" Xiao Jian nodded. The golden light in his eyes reached the depths of Nifeng's pupils. In an instant, Nifeng saw himself as a child. On a cliff, he saw his father, Niren Wang, fighting fiercely with Xiangba. A raging wave was set off on the river. The river surged for dozens of meters, and even the big Buddha beside the river was shaking. The cultivation of the two was unfathomable, and they were the most powerful warriors he had ever seen. The terrifying aura made him tremble. Then, Xiangba used a move of three-point return to the original energy to blast his father onto the Buddha statue. King Ni vomited blood. Just when Xiangba was about to kill him, a burst of fire suddenly burst out of the Buddha. Wrapped his father into the Buddha. The screen disappears. When Nifeng woke up, he only felt anger burning in his chest. My hair almost stood up. "Ah, you little Xiangba, how dare you bully me like this?" Nifeng couldn't help shouting, causing everyone on the battlefield to freeze. What's going on? Nifeng actually dares to scold the gang leader in public. People in Tianxiahui were confused. The people in Jinyue were also confused. watching this scene like a ghost. What did Xiao Jian do? How could Nifeng hate Xiangba so much? Bu Jingyan felt the same way. Although he didn't know what Nifeng had gone through, he thought it was similar to his past. Junior brother, calm down. Bu Jingyan patted Nifeng on the shoulder and said, the most important thing now is how we can take revenge. Bu Jingyan has been burdened with a blood feud since he was a child, so his mind is more mature. But Nifeng was different. In his memory, his father and mother did not exist. Xiangba is like a father in his heart. But now he knows that Xiangba is actually his father-killing enemy. Then hasn't he considered the thief as his father all these years? This humiliation made Nifeng unable to accept it for a while. The hatred towards Xiangba also burst out. Xiao Jian said calmly, do you know now why Xiangba wants to kill you? Bu Jingyan's face was cold, and he looked at Xiao Jian with a somewhat puzzled look. Master Xiao, I have endured it for 20 years for revenge, but now all my plans have come to nothing. And I still don't know what went wrong. He asked himself whether he had hidden well enough over the years. Nothing unusual was revealed, and Nifeng didn't know anything. Why did the Xiangba suddenly become murderous towards them? Xiao Jian showed a mysterious smile. This has to be said about the clay bodhisattva beside Xiangba. Clay bodhisattva. Feng and Yun were stunned. Why is it related to the clay bodhisattva again? Xiao Jian said lightly, the clay bodhisattva's divine arithmetic skills are unparalleled in the world. Many years ago, he once calculated a hexagram for Xiangba. The hexagram said, golden scales are not things in the pond. They will turn into dragons when encountering wind and clouds. The wind and cloud in this hexagram refers to you, so Xiangba will accept you too as his disciples and teach martial arts. The purpose is to let you conquer the world for him. Their eyes were filled with blazing anger. It turns out to be a clay bodhisattva. A while ago, Xiangba asked them to find the clay bodhisattva, but since seeing the clay bodhisattva, Xiangba's attitude towards them has changed. Nifeng pondered for a moment and said, since Xiangba plans to let us conquer the world for him, why would he want to kill us now? It doesn't make sense at all. Bu Jingyan also nodded, looking puzzled. Xiangba years of teaching have allowed them to become famous among the younger generation. Now, the brothers have just entered the Grandmaster realm. It's a great time to help Xiangba conquer the world. Why did Xiangba suddenly start killing them? Logically speaking, they should wait until they have finished their work for Xiangba before taking action. Xiao Jian sneered. That's because the clay bodhisattva only gave him the first 2 sentences of criticism before, but he hasn't said the last 2 sentences yet. The two looked at each other and looked at Xiao Jian curiously. Wait for Xiao Jian to answer their questions. Xiao Jian put his hands behind his back and said calmly, the last 2 sentences are, the dragon's roar at 9 o'clock is shocking, and due to fate, you can swim in shallow water. Success is a matter of course, and failure is a matter of course. Do you think the hegemon will not be afraid of you? Hearing this, Nifeng and the two were stunned. Success is a storm, failure is a storm. This is too much to look down on them. What kind of cultivation is Xiangba? What are the cultivation levels of the two of them? Moreover, Xiangba actually believed it. The two of them were extremely speechless. Especially for Bu Jingyan, so many years of forbearance were ruined by these 2 sentences. It made him feel a little ridiculous. Nifeng asked doubtfully, how did Mr. Xiao know these things? These things are all ancient things. But Xiao Jian has many family treasures. If Xiao Jian had personal experience, it would be reasonable to know some secrets. But Xiao Jian is only 17 years old, where did he know these things? Xiao Jian looked calm and smiled slightly. What you should be concerned about now is not how I know these things, but what should you do? Iron Broom will definitely tell Xiangba all this. There is no need to think about what Xiangba will do if he knows that Feng Yun and the two are out of control. He must take action personally to clean up the door. At this time, there is no way to care about so much. To avoid future troubles is what Xiangba should do most. The expressions of Feng and Yun changed, they looked at each other and immediately turned around and ran away. As for revenge or not, the most important thing is to save your own life first. Now, when they encounter a bully, they won't even have a chance to fight back. They are really 2 smart guys. Xiao Jian looked at the backs of the two of them, with the corners of his mouth raised slightly. Turning his head to look at the crowd fighting at the city gate, he disappeared in a flash. In an instant, bursts of screams were heard from everyone in the Tianxia Association. The Jinyue only felt a flash before their eyes, and the Tianxiahui gang members on the opposite side had already fallen to the ground. They were completely out of breath. Among the Tianxiahui gang members present, no one could stop Xiao Jian's moves. Even Xiao Jian's figure could not be caught. However, in just a few moments, all the Tianxiahui gang members at the city gate were dealt with by Xiao Jian. Master Xiao is mighty. Master Xiao is mighty. Jinyue waved and cheered. Baihu looked at Xiao Jian, who was praised by everyone on the battlefield, and his face turned pale. Xiao Jian was undoubtedly the most outstanding one in Wushuang City this time. And what about him, Baihu? After being beaten up by Xiao Jian, he became his stepping stone. Humph, when you return to Jinling, I'll see how you explain it to the commander. Baihu sneered in his heart, and murderous intent flashed in his eyes. No matter how many people from Tianxiahui Xiao Jian killed, but the unclear relationship between him and Fengyan of Tianxiahui can never be cleared. Xiao Jian bowed to the cheering people from all directions. In his heart, he secretly called out the system panel. Name: Xiao Jian. Age: 17. Kung Fu. The first chapter of the Divine Elephant Prison Power 236 Giant Elephant Particles. Can condense the spear of the underworld god. Martial arts. Perfect Vajra palm, perfect star movement, great wind god leg, great cloud dispelling palm, minor frost fist, minor heart demon attraction, minor dragon subduing 18 palms, minor power transformation, minor poison sutra, minor mysterious yin claw, minor arhat fist, minor north sea divine art, minor prajna palm, minor steel smashing hand, minor iron horse meteor fist. Martial arts experience, 13,140. Internal force, 15,585. After recycling a series of unused martial arts, the experience value instantly went up a level. It has reached the 20,000 mark. If all of it is used to improve the Divine Elephant Prison Power, it will definitely increase his strength by a level. It is not a problem to deal with the peak of the Grand Master in his prime. If the Spear of the Underworld God is used again, it will no longer be a heavy blow to the peak of the Grand Master. Instead, he killed him directly. Thinking of this, Xiao Jian raised his head with ill intentions and glanced at the white tiger on the city gate. It made the white tiger's heart jump. It was as if he was stared at by some terrifying existence. At this moment, Xiao Jian's face changed. Looking at the direction of Tianshan, his expression was very solemn. At this moment, a destructive momentum came over. Mixed with the shocking murderous intention, the people on the top of the city were shocked and their faces turned pale. Looking at the figure standing in the sky in horror. The man was wearing a black brocade robe and had a tall and majestic figure. There was an indelible domineering aura between his eyebrows. The aura on his body was like a deep sea, and people dared not look directly at him. Xiao Jian murmured, "Shangba." Xiao Jian and the Jinyue jumped onto the city wall. He looked at Shangba standing in the air with a solemn expression. I knew Shangba's strength was unfathomable, but when I really faced him, I knew what it felt like. He was so strong that he was not human. Just the aura released made people feel terrified. Except for those above the Grand Master level, all the Jinyue tried their best to mobilize their internal strength to prevent themselves from being crushed by Shangba's momentum. Xiao Jian walked in front of Baihu and said in a deep voice, "Lord Baihu, you said that you will deal with Shangba when he comes, go." Baihu was almost scared to death by Xiao Jian's words. He will deal with it. Is this something he can deal with? Shangba didn't come, so what's wrong with him talking big? But everyone was looking at him at this time. Baihu couldn't just shrink back, right? He could only swallow his teeth and stand in front of everyone. He hated Xiao Jian to death in his heart. Shangba lowered his head and glanced at the Tianxiahui gang members lying below. He looked at Baihu on the city wall indifferently. Among the people on the city wall, only the peak cultivation of the White Tiger Grand Master could catch his eye. Baihu felt a great pressure when being stared at by Shangba. He felt that his whole body was out of control. His legs trembled. His lips trembled, and he wanted to say something, but he couldn't say a word. Where are Nifeng and Bu Jingyan? Shangba stared at Baihu and asked indifferently. This. Baihu stammered and said in a trembling voice, "They just ran away." "Run away." Shangba's face darkened, and his breath fluctuated. The pressure like the waves made everyone want to vomit blood. Xiao Jian looked at Baihu's cowardly look and despised him from the bottom of his heart. He walked up and said to Shangba, "Boss Shang is so ostentatious, but he wants to attack Wushuang City in person." Everyone was shocked by Xiao Jian's words. Shangba was obviously very angry now, and Xiao Jian was still teasing him. "Isn't it courting death?" Shangba stared at Xiao Jian closely, with a flash of murderous intent in his eyes. After a long time, it seemed like a century had passed. Shangba retracted his momentum. On the city wall, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Cold sweat kept flowing down. "You are Xiao Jian, right? It's really not simple." Shangba looked down at Xiao Jian, like a high god looking down at ordinary people. The cold eyes made Xiao Jian feel disgusted. Isn't it just stronger than him? As long as he is given some time, he will definitely be stronger than Shangba. Xiao Jian replied indifferently. As the commander-in-chief of the Jinyue, this official is naturally not simple, but the leader of the Shang gang is even more not simple. You, the leader of the Tianxiahui, dared to lead the crowd to attack the city, but you want to rebel. These words made the facial muscles of the Jinyue present twitch. Baihu almost rushed over to cover Xiao Jian's mouth. "Can you say that? If Shangba is really angry, all of them are not worth 2 slaps from Shangba." Xiao Jian stared at Shangba with a firm look. It was as if he was interrogating a prisoner. Shangba's eyes were fierce and his palms were clenched. He wanted to slap Xiao Jian to death. But he couldn't. Tianxiahui didn't have the confidence to confront the court head-on. It would be easy for him to slap these Jinyue on the city wall to death, but the court would definitely not let it go. At that time, it would not be just a peak master. Maybe it would be a great master, or even a land immortal. Shangba stared at Xiao Jian with an extremely cold look. He said lightly, "Little Jinyue, you want to put a hat on me, you are not qualified." Humph! A cold snort, in the form of sound transmission, hit Xiao Jian's heart directly. In an instant, Xiao Jian was struck by lightning and stood there in a daze. There was no light in his eyes. Looking at Xiao Jian standing there in a daze, Shangba showed a sneer at the corner of his mouth, and then turned and left. He didn't even give any explanation. Arrogant, domineering. At this moment, in Xiao Jian's mind, it seemed that the roar of the ancient gods came. Just a roar, and a huge shock wave was set off in his mind world. The energy of destroying the world was about to destroy his mind world. At this critical moment, a 10,000-foot-tall elephant roared in the galaxy, suppressing this shocking wave. The mind world calmed down instantly. Xiao Jian's eyes also regained their luster. Looking at Shangba who was leaving, Xiao Jian's eyes showed murderous intent. Unexpectedly, Shangba would actually do something to him. According to his guess, Shangba would never dare to do it in public for his ambition. And Shangba did not do it. But secretly, he launched an attack on his spiritual world. If he hadn't been protected by the divine elephant's prison suppressing power, he might have really fallen into his trap. At this time, everyone who came to their senses surrounded Xiao Jian and praised him. What a brave and invincible, unparalleled in the world. All the words of praise that can be thought of in the world are applied to Xiao Jian. This made Baihu feel deeply humiliated. Just now in front of Shangba, he couldn't even speak properly. He didn't even dare to look up and look at Shangba. And what about Xiao Jian? Not only did he question Shangba, making Shangba return in defeat, but he also saved the face of the Jinyue. In comparison, Baihu's performance was even more shameful. After this incident, the Jinyue people were more respectful to Xiao Jian. Even more respectful than to Baihu. This scene hurt Baihu's fragile heart again. He secretly hated it in his heart, and when he returned to Jinling, he must make Xiao Jian pay the price. After patrolling around for a week, Shangba found no trace of Fengyan and Fengyan. He could only return to Tianxiahui. At the same time, he secretly arranged for his gang members to search for Fengyan and Fengyan. The matter of Wushuang City was spread throughout the Ming dynasty at a very fast speed under the deliberate propaganda of Jinyue. Xiao Jian's strength and ruthlessness once again refreshed everyone's impression of him. This time, there were hundreds of Tianxiahui gang members who died in Xiao Jian's hands. Even the leader of Tianxiahui himself could not suppress Xiao Jian's arrogance. Although everyone knew that Shangba was concerned about the Ming dynasty court, Xiao Jian's performance was still very eye-catching. Jinling City Palace. Ji Gang looked at the news from Wushuang City, and his mouth opened wider and wider. Finally, he laughed without caring about his image. Ji Gang's laughter echoed throughout the palace. Qinglong and others looked at each other. For many years, I have never seen the commander laugh so happily. After laughing for a while, Ji Gang handed the news from Wushuang City to Qinglong and others for review. The few people who saw the news couldn't help but gasp. How is this possible? If Xiao Jian defeated Baihu, they wouldn't be so surprised. After all, Xiao Jian had defeated Shang Wenshan. It would be easier to accept defeating another peak master. But Xiao Jian could force Shang Ba to give in, which was incredible. Who is Shang Ba? He is the leader of the Tianxia Association. There are more than 100,000 gang members. You can even describe him as having power over the world. Xiao Jian actually dared to question Shang Ba in person. Ji Gang smiled slightly and said loudly, "Order Xiao Jian to return to Beijing to report as soon as possible." The news from Jinling soon reached Wushuang City. In order to get the details of Wushuang City from Xiao Jian, Ji Gang urgently summoned him. Xiao Jian rushed to Jinling immediately after receiving the news. Xiao Jian only took 6 days to travel more than 10 days. Baihu, the co-director of Jinyue, also came back with him. When Baihu learned of Ji Gang's summons, he immediately showed joy. He put aside the matter of Wushuang City and followed Xiao Jian back. He wanted to report Xiao Jian to Ji Gang. He was guilty of assaulting his superiors. He also had an unclear relationship with the two people from Tianxiahui. I vowed to nail Xiao Jian to death once and for all. He, Baihu, had been in Jinyue for decades. He had worked hard all the way and finally got the position of Tongji of Jinyue. Wherever he went, he was popular. But he fell flat on his face in front of Xiao Jian. He was beaten by Xiao Jian. Moreover, he made a fool of himself in front of Shangba, but Xiao Jian talked freely. He forced Shangba to retreat. He was suppressed by Xiao Jian again. During this period, Baihu could clearly feel the disdain of Jinyue. It was just that because of his strong strength and high position, no one dared to say anything about him in public. But what they were talking about in secret was easy to guess. If Xiao Jian's momentum was not suppressed, he would never be able to raise his head in Jinyue. The two walked straight and came to the office hall of Jinyue in the palace. Gangji, Qinglong and others had received the news long ago and sat there waiting. When Xiao Jian and the other two came in, Ji Gang laughed and stood up to greet them. "Ha ha ha, our great hero of Jinyue is finally back. I have been waiting for a long time." Qinglong and the others also stood up, their eyes full of envy. It was unique in Jinyue that Ji Gang took the initiative to greet them. "Meet the commander, meet the co-governors." Xiao Jian cupped his hands and saluted to the others. He looked respectful and modest. Gangji smiled and said, "Not bad, not bad. We know a little about your affairs in Wushuang City, but we have to listen to you, the person involved, for details." Since it was about Shangba, the super master, taking action personally, Ji Gang attached great importance to it. Xiao Jian nodded. Just as he was about to speak, Baihu on the side hurriedly said, "The commander is here, and Xiao Jian is flirting with the people of Tianxiahui in Wushuang City. I am afraid he has already joined Tianxiahui." Ji Gang's face darkened when he heard this. He also planned to use Xiao Jian as a banner of the Jinyue. Xiao Jian would go out to the martial arts world and suppress the major sects. But Baihu said that, doesn't that mean he is blind and doesn't know how to judge people? During this period of time, Xiao Jian has made the Sun Moon Divine Sect and the Tianxia Association suffer a loss. He has effectively deterred the major sects in the martial arts world. Ji Gang, who supported Xiao Jian, was very pleased. Baihu doubted Xiao Jian, which meant he questioned him. Ji Gang's face turned cold and he said lightly, "Baihu, I know you lost to Xiao Jian and lost face, but you don't talk nonsense, right?" The atmosphere in the palace froze all of a sudden. Qinglong and the others looked at each other, and a strange look flashed in their eyes. Baihu lost face, and it is understandable that he hated Xiao Jian under the blinding of hatred. Ji Gang naturally thought of this and immediately waved his hand, signaling Baihu to retreat. Baihu was anxious and shouted, "Commander, everything I said is true. Xiao Jian once conspired with Feng Yan and the others in Wushuang City. I saw it with my own eyes. And Xiao Jian showed mercy to the two of them. Otherwise, how can they fight back and forth with Xiao Jian?" In the palace, several people froze, thinking of the news sent back by Jinyue. A trace of doubt flashed in their eyes. The strength of Feng Yan and the others is indeed outstanding among the younger generation, but they are not comparable to Baihu at all. Even Baihu was defeated by Xiao Jian in one move, so how can they fight back and forth with Xiao Jian? Xiao Jian glanced at Baihu calmly. A trace of disdain flashed in his eyes. I didn't expect that he would actually come to Jigang to complain. Shameless. He is still a master at the peak of the strong, and there is no difference between him and the street people. Xiao Jian bowed his hands and said to Jigang, "Commander, I have indeed met Feng Yan and the other two in private." Baihu was overjoyed and shouted hurriedly, "Commander, you heard it, Xiao Jian admitted it." Jigang was stunned. He didn't doubt that Xiao Jian really joined the Tianxia Association, but he didn't know why Xiao Jian admitted it. As long as Xiao Jian refused to speak, Baihu couldn't do anything to him. As for not using all his strength during the fight with Feng Yan, it was not a big deal. Xiao Jian looked at Baihu and sneered, "But I met Feng Yan and the other two to alienate the relationship between Shangba and the two. Now it seems that this has been successful. In the near future, Shangba should issue a Zhonghu hunting order for Feng Yan." Everyone in the field was stunned for a moment. Is it alienating the relationship between Feng Yan and Shangba? Who in the world doesn't know that Feng Yan was raised by Shangba? And Feng Yan's martial arts were all taught by Shangba himself. Can this be successful? Baihu laughed. "Xiao Jian, you should find a more credible reason. You actually said that you successfully alienated the relationship between Feng Yan and Shangba. Isn't this ridiculous?" Jigang was stunned, and looked at Xiao Jian with a strange look. If Xiao Jian had given some other reason, he wouldn't have such an expression. Xiao Jian's words were really unbelievable. Xiao Jian looked at the suspicious eyes of several people and said calmly, "This is easy to verify. If I lied, I wouldn't tell such a low-level lie." Xiao Jian's calmness made several people stunned for a while. Jigang stared at Xiao Jian with deep eyes, although he did not release his momentum. But several people in the palace felt an inexplicable pressure. Especially Xiao Jian on the opposite side. It was as if he was pressed down by a mountain. But Xiao Jian remained calm and looked at Jigang with a firm look. "Come here, quickly check the news from Tianxiahui." Jigang shouted, and immediately the Jinyue took the order and went down to collect the news. No one spoke, and the atmosphere in the palace suddenly became quiet. Baihu sneered at Xiao Jian. "I didn't expect things to go so smoothly." Xiao Jian actually asked for death and dared to boast in front of the commander. As long as the news from Tianxiahui came, Xiao Jian would no longer have any credibility in front of the commander. At that time, even the official position of the governor might not be kept. Soon, the Jinyue immediately brought back the latest news. He handed it to Jigang respectfully. Jigang only took a look, and his pupils suddenly shrank. The momentum on his body was inadvertently leaked a little. In an instant, the situation in the palace changed. Xiao Jian felt Jigang's breath, and his body suddenly stagnated. Jigang's strength is not weaker than Shangba's. But it is true, after all, he is the commander of the Jinyue of the Ming dynasty. How could he not have some strength? Jigang laughed loudly. The palace was shaken. After a long time, he walked in front of Xiao Jian and patted Xiao Jian's shoulders with both hands. "Xiao Jian, you are good, very good, you have solved a big problem for the court. The rebellion of Feng Yan will inevitably tie up most of Shangba's energy. It is equivalent to cutting off one of Shangba's arms. The crisis of Wushuang City is naturally resolved." Baihu opened his mouth wide and looked at Xiao Jian in disbelief. Did he really alienate Feng Yan? How is this possible? After racking his brains, he didn't know what went wrong. Qinglong and the others looked at Xiao Jian with deep eyes. Xiao Jian was not only amazing in strength. His ability in mind was even more shocking. He could actually make Feng Yan rebel. They didn't even dare to think about this kind of operation. Jigang was in a good mood and said, "Xiao Jian, I said last time that as long as you make another contribution, I will give you a surprise. Tell me, what do you want?" As long as I can do it, I will do it. Qinglong and the others were envious. I will do it. This is the promise of a great master. Commander Ji Gang's promise. They have never heard of anyone who can make Ji Gang make such a promise. Xiao Jian's heart couldn't help but beat. What should I want? For him, official positions and money have no appeal. Unless, Xiao Jian glanced at Baihu with ill intentions. The strange look made Baihu's hair stand on end. What does Xiao Jian mean by this? Are you going to use the commander's promise to kill him? Baihu screamed immediately. Xiao Jian, what do you want to do? I am the co-director of the Jinyue, and I am your superior according to my official position. Xiao Jian was indifferent, still staring at Baihu with a sneer. The cold eyes made Baihu's heart beat. Baihu also knew that he had offended Xiao Jian. He couldn't bring himself to beg for mercy from Xiao Jian. He could only look at Ji Gang pitifully and cry with tears. Commander, I have followed you for decades. Even if I have no merit, I have worked hard. Baihu kept talking. He was afraid that Xiao Jian would ask Ji Gang to take action and slap him to death. Ji Gang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Okay, Xiao Jian, don't tease him anymore. Tell me your wish. Ji Gang shook his head and looked at Baihu with regret. How could Xiao Jian's tricks be hidden from him? He just wanted to scare Baihu. Baihu, who was crying, heard this and his face suddenly darkened. He came back to his senses immediately. If Xiao Jian dared to kill him with Ji Gang's promise, wouldn't that be a slap in Ji Gang's face? After all, he was also an old man under Ji Gang. This was a big loss of face. He stood aside embarrassedly, and never dared to provoke Xiao Jian again. But he hated him in his heart. Xiao Jian bowed to Ji Gang with a serious look and said, I have never seen a great master fight, I want to broaden my horizons. If he didn't know it was impossible, Xiao Jian would have wanted to see the battle between the immortals on land. However, if he really asked, Ji Gang would probably slap him. Xiao Jian's request made everyone stunned for a moment. According to Baihu and others' ideas, it would be best to ask Ji Gang for a profound martial arts secret book. Ji Gang's eyes flashed with a ray of brilliance. Then he waved his hand and asked Qinglong and others to retreat. Only Xiao Jian and Ji Gang were left. Xiao Jian's heart trembled. Could it be that his secret was exposed? Ji Gang's expression became serious and he said, Xiao Jian, I agree to your request. Agreed. Xiao Jian was confused. It was just a condition, so he wouldn't let Qinglong and the others retreat, right? Ji Gang put his hands behind his back and sighed heavily. You know what? I have great expectations for you. Now, the court is in a bad situation, and the martial arts world is not as simple as you see. Do you know which is the biggest power in the world? Xiao Jian asked tentatively. The court. Ji Gang was stunned and laughed. You are really smart. The court has the biggest power, but it also faces the most difficult situation. Whether it is the Sun Moon sect or the Tianxia Association, everyone knows their ambitions, but there is another force that threatens the court more than the two. That is Shaolin Temple. Although they say that monks do not interfere in worldly affairs, can they really not interfere? Xiao Jian shook his head. If Shaolin really cannot interfere in worldly affairs, then Zanku will not chase him. There will be no Shuzu obtaining the inheritance of the Grand Master. In the final analysis, whether to interfere or not depends on whether the benefits are big enough. As long as the benefits are in place, they will clamor that this thing is destined to be with my Buddha. Ji Gang looked solemn and said in a deep voice, no one knows how strong the Shaolin Temple is except themselves. So, we must find out their strength. After saying that, Ji Gang looked at Xiao Jian meaningfully. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.